All right. Well, let's kick it off. Everyone, hey, welcome in. My name is Echo Hack, and today I'm joined by Darth Microtransaction. Wait, over this way. Darth Microtransaction, Cold Brew, and Chosen. And we're gonna just do some Immortal chat today. But I want to kick it off first with some really exciting news, because right now we are on the embedded player on Maxroll. And Maxroll has a brand new global launch of our website. So we just launched a whole bunch of new guides. In fact, let me bring it up here on this.
I've been using your guys' website for like everything.
Yeah, it's like
it's a great source.
Encyclopedia. It's like that. Gotta be on there.
So if I bring it up here on the stream here, wait, this one, yeah. So you can see here we have a brand new class filter. You can click on whatever class you want. So if you click on Barbarian, now you're not just going to get one Barbarian guide, but you're going to get like 8 Barbarian different guides for different classes. Click on, let's say, Frenzy Raid Guide. You're going to get your Raid Guide here. You go to there. And then we have all sorts of new stuff here on Maxroll. We've got these tooltips now, thanks to the lovely Riv. And so you can just hover over anything, or if you're on mobile, I should mention that this is our first Maxroll site that's made for mobile. So you can tap on any of these on mobile, and they'll come up with this nice.
So you guys are preparing,
just for mobile.
You're preparing. I mean, this
is the launch. We've been preparing.
It's looking great, baby.
So yeah, you get all these nice tooltips, and then even better, you get the build. It'll tell you everything to put on, and not only that, but you get the full embed. So you get to see every single item. Like here are the set items, like which sockets you should fill with which exact normal gems, and then over here we've got the charm and the legendaries. This is actually a big thing that the devs talk about, is that the legendaries in this game are scrollable. So you can like scroll it with your finger. So we've got that too, right? So you can just scroll this here either with your mouse wheel or with your finger if you're on mobile. It's actually a bit more intuitive on mobile. I was at the coffee shop
none of this is
morning.
paywalled. It's all free.
None of this is paywalled. All free. Yes, DM, you got it. And then here's your loadout for your skills here for this build, and you got even alternate setups if you want to swap in one skill or something like that. It'll go into all the details too, like, you know, if you're free to play and you just want some starter gems, or you're just getting started with the game, or if you're, you know, pay to win whale or whatever it is, then here you go. You got all of those different things for you right there. Facebook nice. Coming in with the subscription, Keeger. Also, Huggy Bear and K-Olin81 giving out subs. Thank you guys so much for the support.
Yeah, looks incredible, man.
Yeah, you guys go check this out. We'll probably be referencing. There's another tool I forgot to even reference. We actually just launched this tool this week. We didn't even know about this until Thursday. So you're like, we were thinking last week, hey, we're going to launch on Saturday, and then Thursday rolls around. And we're like, all right, boys, let's put another tool on every single guide. So we got this Paragon tool here, and this. Let me show you this. This is so cool. You go here, and you just hit this little slider at the bottom, and it'll tell you every step of the way in the order that you're supposed to put the points. So, you know, you can see up here your Paragon 54, or you can go back, you know, to every stage of upgrading your Paragon, all the way to Paragon 200. This is about 3 months into the game, so we didn't want to theorycraft beyond 3 months. That's maybe even a little ambitious, 3 months out.
Yeah, I'd say that's plenty fine.
Well, man, I gotta say, it looks great, and I mean, coming from other games, a lot of these type of features, I know it's kind of memey, but a lot of these typically are paywall behind stuff, so it's pretty awesome. You guys got this big of a resource for basically everyone pre-launch. Nice.
Yeah, we'll be using it a lot for sure. It looks great.
Yeah, it's the site to go to for DI.
Absolutely. By the way, we do have Rob and Facefoot in the chat as well, who are also Maxroll members.
What up, Rob?
Hello.
Facefoot.
Apparently my voice is way too high, so I'm going to bump you guys up.
Yeah, I adjusted mine a little bit.
How's that, guys? You guys nice and loud?
That's good.
Testing.
Testing. 1 2 1 2.
I think that's better. Well, we'll dial it in. There's a first time for everything, you guys.
It's
Anyway,
always the audio is always the problem, but yeah, it takes a bit.
Always is. So I want to kick it off. I've seen some of the content coming out of you guys over the past week, and I want to kick it off with sort of a question to sort of rehash some of the stuff that you've been talking about elsewhere. And I think this is a big one, right? So, like, are we going to see everyone move over from all of these other mobile games to Diablo Immortal? Are we just going to see the player base just drain out of, Marvel Strike Force and Raid Shadow Legends and all these other big mobile games? Are we going to see just everyone migrate over right away? Is it just going to be a mass exodus, or do you think it might be something like a trickle, or do you think they can live together in harmony? Like, let me get started with you, Chosen, because I think you might have something pretty strong to say about this one.
Sure, yeah. I think anytime a massive IP launches a game like Diablo, you're going to get a huge influx of people trying a AAA massive IP title. So yeah, you'll see a huge conversion of lots of the other mobile games trying out the game. Now, it's not exactly the same as those games. It's very different. Like it's a different genre. A lot of those mobile games are like 90% auto play, where it's more macro management and kind of pulling shards and mass dopamine on acquiring champions. So very different genres. I think you'll see a lot of people try it, and then you'll see maybe everybody kind of settle into their own niche. But yeah, it's definitely going to be huge for the first month, and then it'll come down like every game does. They kind of settle into their normal player base. But yeah, you're definitely going to see. Content creators are usually so salivating for content to cover that yeah, everyone's going to be at least trying it, I think.
Yeah, that's what I think too. It's like a brand new game from a big company such as Blizzard. Everybody will be just going in there day one. They've already pre-registered. They're gonna be trying out the game, and if it fits for them, they're gonna be staying in. But it's not for everyone. These kind of games, especially that don't have the auto-friendly mode, especially on mobile, it will not attract all the audience coming in just from mobile games such as Raid. It's sometimes just a totally different audience that prefer the more casual play instead of the more active play, which is usual with Blizzard games especially.
So my take on it's this: like, I've played similar games. I would say similar games like Marvel Future Revolution is probably the closest one, and the way I see it is this. The initial launch for these games is always based upon how popular the company, the brand, and the IP is. Like, that's the initial launch, because it's how people even get to know the game before it's even out there. Word of mouth isn't really a thing yet. Sure, there's some beta footage, but it's mostly about the IP. So Diablo is a pretty big IP, in particular, a pretty big PC IP. So I think they have a lot of negative connotations that PC gamers have about mobile gaming. And I think we can see this in pretty much all of our comments when we look at any videos we put out for Diablo Immortal. About 30% of the comments are people just saying stuff like, the game's pay-to-win garbage, and just ragging on the game when it's obvious they haven't played the game or looked up info or anything like that. So I think that's going to be a huge issue to go across. Where I don't think that's going to be as big of an issue is like when you're saying pulling from other mobile games within the same space. So I don't see this game really taking away from gacha games, because I kind of think there's something different. But I absolutely see this game folding and collapsing a lot of games that are just floating around in the same genre, like Marvel Future Revolution. I mean, we ran one of the biggest clans for a while, and I know plenty of those people that are still actively playing the game. They're quitting for this game coming out. So it's definitely going to have an impact on it for sure.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and that sort of leads me into my next question. I put out a poll this morning on YouTube, and I was really curious, like, what is the actual ratio of people, now that we know that there's a PC client, right? What's the actual ratio of people who are gonna play on mobile, who are gonna play on tablet, who are really interested in the mobile experience on mobile as opposed to the mobile experience on PC, right? And the numbers I was seeing there, at least so far, is 78% on mobile and 22% on PC. So I'm curious, like, what are you guys gonna do? Are you gonna play on PC, or gonna play on PC with controller or keyboard or mouse? Are you gonna be playing on mobile, or like or both, or all of the above, or what's your way to play this game?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I'll do it probably 90% PC, and then like another 10% when I'm kind of like laying in bed and I want to log in and do some dailies, or I'm on the couch and there's a commercial break. I'll log in and kind of check my gear, But 90% of the time I plan on kind of playing it on the PC, which is kind of similar to how I play a lot of games now. I really love the PC client. That was a huge deal for me and a lot of the other PC gamers. Like, I'm still into RTS and Age of Empires 4 and stuff, so I've always been a PC gamer, so that was a big deal for me personally. So I'll definitely be mostly 90% PC.
Is that because you're a PC gamer, or is it because, like, for content creation, right? Like,
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
is that I think
both.
We're probably a bad audience to ask for this question, because we're all going to be making content on the game, and obviously the PC is going to cater itself to making that content better. I know for myself, when it comes to like personal pleasure of playing these games, like I own multiple phones, so that I can sit on my couch and like I'll just watch Better Call Saul or something, and I'll play the game, because I know that 90% of the game is going to be just grinding over and over and over again, because we're going to need legendary gem experience and things like that. So we're just going to be grinding over and over and over. And while doing that, do I want to do that in my chair where I have back and neck problems, or do I want to do that, sprawled out in my underwear on the floor? And that's probably how I'm going to end up playing the game the majority of the time, I would assume, and being on the PC whenever I'm like actually creating the content. And the thing is, most of the people I talk to, it's a similar type of experience. Like, people like to shit on mobile and make fun of it all they want, but then the majority of the world is playing games on mobile. So I think mobile is going to be a lot bigger than people think.
Yeah, with that, by the way, posture check, everybody. I'm actually gonna go standing myself.
Yeah, that's the thing with these games that take you on grinding days. Like, you're gonna be grinding 10 hours straight sometimes if you got that free time, which we do have as content creators, and you can't do that all during the day on your phone. I'm probably gonna be, again, 90 to 95% on the PC, and then the remaining time that I find I'll be on my phone on the couch while watching TV, just doing the boring parts. Or even when I'm at the gym, like if I'm doing cardio on the treadmill, I usually play phone games there. And that's the way to go.
And if you don't mind, do you mind if I send a link in your Twitch chat, Echo Hack? Is that okay?
I think you're good.
That's a link to like the revenue growth of different platforms of games. I've pulled it up before on my stream, but your poll is kind of shaking out exactly how I would have expected. We see kind of mobile slowly chipping away at some of those numbers there and taking market share. So I would expect mobile to be double of what PC is. Like if PC's 30%, I would expect mobile to be up in the 60s. So and your poll was something like 70%. So that's why it was such a big deal to me to unify the player bases and get it as big as possible, so that we have the biggest community possible and everything kind of snowballs.
Chosen, what I'm seeing on this graph that hasn't been mentioned yet is the console part of this.
Yep.
I mean, we know I have seen this question a lot in my chats and such, as we know Immortal's not on console yet, but I see 85 billion mobile, 40 billion PC, and 33 billion console. So I don't know, maybe in a year or two or something, Diablo Immortal on console. We'll see what happens.
I'm sure they have plans for it, because they've done Diablo 3 on console. I'm sure they're probably hoping within like a year or two to
on the
port
Switch.
Console.
I mean, if they can get it on the Switch, they're going to get it onto everything. I also think that'd be a good platform. To be honest, the Switch was the hardware. I know it's completely off topic, but like the Switch hardware felt so good. It felt like the perfect Diablo type of hardware. And I feel like the Steam Deck, somebody's going to get the Diablo Immortal onto the Steam Deck. Like, someone's going to sideload it somehow, do something to it, and that right there is how I want to play it. If I could choose to have anything, I want to play it on the Steam Deck.
Ooh, on the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
That would be the way to go. Like,
I like. So I really like this. This is Razer Kishi. I've heard Immortal also works with the Backbone one for those of you who have that thing. But I can just take my my phone here and put it in there, and this looks like a Nintendo Switch, basically.
Yep.
Right. In fact, it's more compute than a Nintendo Switch. It's like stronger and more powerful than that. So I think this is the Nintendo Switch experience. But if you look at the price, right? So like a Nintendo Switch is like $300, and then if it's a free to play game, then you're just paying for the console. This is like $100 for the controller, and then if you get a really big one of the giant XL modern game ship phones, I don't know, you're looking at a lot of money. So Nintendo Switch might have less compute, but it also might be a more affordable option too.
Yeah, and if you look on the shelf behind me, I've got some different controllers sitting up there. I got like 3 different ones, and I do actually have that same one. So yeah, I'm sure I'll have that on like my nightstand for when I want to log in and play for an hour quick. And I do have that Razer Kishi ready to rock as well.
Quickly,
Chosen, what I want to do with this thing, I want to go to a friend's house, because like this is what we do in America, right? We drive our cars to our friends' houses instead of riding the train like civilized people in the EU and Southeast Asia do.
Well, in Alaska, that's very inefficient. I mean, we don't have too many railroads going next to my cabin in the woods.
We barely have buses here. We barely have buses, so it's all cars. It's all with our cars here.
Yeah,
but that's what I want to do, right?
Uncivilized non-American.
I want to go to my friend's, giant house in the suburbs, and I want to sit on their couch and have a little LAN party, just like the old days, except I don't have to bring a giant PC with me and a 27-inch monitor and like basically like hiring a moving company just to have a little LAN party, right? I just want to pack up this Razer Kishi in my bag. And then boom, LAN party.
Dude, you're triggering me from back in the day when I was doing League of Legends like LAN tournaments, because our college was part of like the Riot sponsored thing, and we won them. Woo! Shout out to our boys. But unfortunately, you would have to backpack these gigantic computers everywhere you go with a headset and a keyboard. And good God, I mean, you might as well be Master Chief with all this stupid garbage you're carrying with you everywhere.
I got a question from the chat specifically about the GameSir T4 controller. Has anybody used that one?
Never heard of it.
I haven't either.
I've never heard of it.
All right, sorry, Cesarian.
Very helpful.
we have not played with that one. I do know that Blizzard at some point plans to post like a list of like all of their like officially supported controllers. And I think probably even beyond that, you'll find that a lot of Bluetooth controllers will just kind of work out of the box. That's my expectation.
Will they have the Xbox One be like immediately like available there?
Oh yeah. So even in the beta,
right?
Yeah,
and
even in the beta, the modern Xbox Bluetooth controllers, those all work. I've also gotten confirmation that the Xbox Adaptive Controller, if you guys know what that is, that works as well. That's a really cool controller, by the way, for folks who like
have it right here.
Yeah, the Adaptive Controller is like a controller made for like accessibility, right? So folks, the differently abled kind of folks out there who need to like move their character with their foot because they don't have an arm or something. And I think it's really, really cool that that's supported. That's.
Oh, like okay. Sorry, I thought you meant something else.
Yeah. That's really good.
I actually want to buy one now just to try it out. I also want to try to play Diablo Immortal with a DDR controller.
Oh, dude, like the original Xbox one that you'd have to stomp on that was like soft plastic, and the floor was never hard enough, so you would only hit the button half the time anyway. Oh, man. Man, flashback to some nostalgia, bro. DDR was I don't think any of these mobile gamers over here have played too much DDR in your day. Have you, boys?
No, but I do actually have a foot thing below my desk, and one of the main reasons I bought it was like whenever you have to hold down like left or right click for like 5 minutes at a time in a game, like you're moving around or something. I got sick of doing that with my finger, so I literally just bought a pedal I can I can rest my foot on, and it holds down left click as long as I want.
That's pay to win, bro.
Yeah.
That was the thing with Diablo 3, right? It was really, really tough on your, I guess, your whole hand, because you were pressing down on the left mouse button like for a long time. Sometimes,
and that's why
while grinding out. It was really tough.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking. I'm gonna be both keyboard and mouse and controller while playing on PC, because it might be really tough grinding for many hours.
Keyboard
we're
and mouse.
we're not 19 anymore. We gotta be ergonomic here.
Dude, I know. Like this invented thing called carpal tunnel is actually real. God damn it! Like it's actually sucks. My arm's on fire whenever I do anything for over 5 minutes.
I think I might have a few years on all of you, but I'll give you a pro tip: is that I do this little exercise here.
Let me see.
So you put your
All
palms
right.
together.
Piano one, yeah.
Yeah, you do that. No, you put your palms, like take your palms,
All right.
and wrap your fingers around, and then push together,
Ooh.
and then
I'm
do
used
it on
to
the
it.
other side.
I'm used to the fingers.
We
one.
discussed the important topics that you need to know around here.
Wait, so you
this
got
is
a
the
few
real stuff.
years on us? I don't think so. I think we're a little older than you think.
Yeah, I think me and DM are almost the same age.
I know I look like I'm
Chosen.
18, but your boy is a little bit older. And Chosen's got a few years on all of us. He's in his 50s.
I'm 27.
Okay, well, I got a few years on him.
Grandpa Chosen, just leading the way.
Okay, so I want to get to sort of the meat of our chat today, and that's I want to talk about the social systems. And I think it's beautiful that we have 4 people here today, because this is what a party looks like in Immortal, right?
This is
You
it.
get 4 people, you go and you blast some content, and there's different content, and I kind of want to talk about the different content, different makeups, and that sort of thing. But let's start with what everyone's class is going to be, because then that way the audience that's watching right now, everybody can visualize kind of like in game what it's going to be like if the 4 of us were playing together, like right now.
Perfect.
So, Chosen, why don't you get us started?
Sure, yeah, I'm leaning towards Demon Hunter, and I'm kind of pot committed at this point because had some glorious friends buy me a costume I'm supposed to wear with like the assassin hood and the rogue armor. So I guess I'm playing Demon Hunter.
He's in the chat. I think Rick Gizzard's in the
shoot.
chat.
Oh, nice. Shout out, Rick. What's up?
Okay, so Demon Hunter for Chosen. Cold Brew, what class are you playing?
I'm 90 to 95% Crusader at the moment, and the remaining 5% is Barbarian. I still have it in the back of my mind, but it's probably gonna be Crusader.
Gonna be Crusader, all right. So yeah, what you're seeing on screen right now is Crusader gameplay. So
Cruising through.
then we have DM. I think I know what class you're playing.
It's obvious. I mean, I look like him, so I'm going to be playing him. Necromancer. Speaking of Rick Gizzard, he also bought me an outfit. I will not be left behind in this gatekeeping. And it has skulls on the shoulder, and it's got a hood and everything. It's going to be great. So I'm going to be looking like I think it was designed for a woman, because they did have it on a woman's bust. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It's still going to.
2022, man.
It's 2022. We're going to go with it. It's going to look great. I look just like the goddamn Necromancer in the actual game. They did it on purpose.
I think.
Yeah, you could honestly probably get some litigation and get like 0.2% of revenue
I
or
was
something.
thinking something like my image is being used.
Yes. Okay. So we have Demon Hunter, Crusader, Necromancer, and then I'll be playing Crusader as well. So we'll have 2 Crusaders in the party. So I think one of us might go support build. The other one might be like a grouping, more like DPS, blasty build. And then Necromancer has a really great support build. And then Demon Hunter, I mean, Chosen, you're going to be doing all of our DPS basically. Because
You know it.
we've
Put
got
me in,
3
coach.
people. We've got 3 people with great support builds, and then we've got Demon Hunter, which is probably the best single class or single target damage in the game. So we're going to need you to go for like a highly single target DPS centered build. So let's start with warbands. And this conversation around warbands gets a little bit speculative because based on alpha and beta gameplay, we never used warbands. So you could go into the UI and you could say, hey, I want to put 4 people in a party and I want to make a warband. And all that really did is you got a button where you could invite all 4 people together at the same time. But it wasn't necessarily even convenient because there are better options to invite people to your party kind of ad hoc in the game. So we just didn't use this thing. But now we're learning that A, warbands are now 8 people, and B, there's some data mined content. Say what you want about data mining, but more or less, this is like more. This may not be precisely accurate, but more the vibe of what we're going to be getting at launch. So we think that warbands are going to give some kind of special rewards, some kind of like warband chest that drops if you're in the same party with other warband members, right? So let's pretend we're all in a warband together, right? And then on top of that, when the warband chest drops and you open it up, all of the loot doesn't go to you. It goes to a special shared warband stash, right? And this is really important because this is literally the only like shared loot mechanic in the entire game, to my knowledge. And then what you can do is you can go to the shared warband stash and you can borrow one item from the shared warband stash and you can equip that one item. So like your buddy, you can borrow, yes. And I guess we should very, very briefly mention what the implication of borrow means. So like what happens if someone leaves your warband? What happens if we all piss off Cold Brew and he doesn't want to be our friend anymore?
That's what I thought.
And he wants to go play.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, he wants to go play with somebody else.
It'll take that gear off him, won't it?
So it will take all of the gear that he's contributed to the warband with him. So if you've borrowed one of Cold Brew's drops, then I think he's taken that drop with him.
Oh, this is like intense because now you can be like, look, that piece that I found that you're using, don't upset me or I'm taking it.
Oh, we got blackmail now.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like it, dude. Okay, so warbands are actually important. Then is what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah, and so we don't know the distribution of loot, but like we can guess, right? We can guess that if there's a warband stash that drops, it probably drops random loot for all classes, right? So this loadout that we have, so these are only 4 people. I assume if we had a warband, we'd have 8 full people if we were really truly blasting, right? So we'd probably not want to have 4 more Crusaders in the party because anytime there's a Crusader drop, that's 6 people who will like argue over the same loot. So ideally, we'll want to have unique classes as much as possible in the party. So we'll probably want to get a wizard and a monk,
2 duplicates
barbarian.
Basically, right? Is what's going to
boil
down to.
You can have 2 duplicates, ideally, right? Now, some warbands might have like 3 duplicates just because somebody else wants to play. There might be a 3rd Crusader in the party, and then the Crusaders are going to have to argue over who gets the warband loot, But that's just how it's going to go if you play a popular class, which is kind of interesting to me because it's almost a little bit incentivizing people to play some of the less played classes. Like for example, monk and wizard are a lot less popular than some of the other classes. So I don't know, if you want a better share of the loot and you're going to play in a warbands, maybe pick monk and wizard.
So what's the hot take on what the perfect warband structure is? So you got the 6 splitting up each class, and then what are optimally the 2 best duplicates? Probably something like Barb and DH.
Oh, I think I think more or less it'll come down to what people want to play. But if you are like theory crafting it, right? Like, or getting out the spreadsheet.
There you go. I'm opening it right now.
He's like, spreadsheet number 3.
That's one thing I always got open. Yep.
For Diablo Immortal. Tab number 69. You know,
We're getting there.
Yeah. So I think you're either gonna have 2 demon hunters, or you're gonna have 2 crusaders. I think that's what it's gonna end up being for optimal.
Yep, I was kind of thinking something like that because there are some parties where you would even want 2 demon hunters for certain like boss fights and stuff. And you're always gonna want at least like 1 DH, right?
You're gonna definitely need 1 DH in every warband for sure. Their DPS is just way too valuable for bosses, and one of the main reasons you want to have a warband is as well. Something else I didn't mention earlier is you get bonuses to fight Heliquary bosses as well. So you might get a little like PvE bonus, like I don't know, like 5% more damage, 10% more defense, something like this. I don't know. Or just theory crafting at the moment. It's still a little too early to know these things, but you're going to get some kind of bonuses and Heliquary raids as well from data mine content.
Cool.
So having that DH
makes sense.
Essential, absolutely essential.
Sorry,
the drink?
I had to get my breakfast from the door.
Oh, you got the breakfast. What did you end up
Oh
getting?
my goodness.
I did get my breakfast. I ordered, and this stream is brought to you by Caro Jr. Breakfast Burger. Get some grease slop, pig slop into you today for the low price of too much money. That's
for
a question.
The low price of too much money. The microtransactions are real outside the game as well.
It's starting already, baby. I'm powering my way through towards the launch.
Yeah, what kind of scam is this, man? Like you have to eat food in order to survive, in order to play the game, man. Just like that feels like a scam to me.
You would think a necromancer wouldn't need food, but here we are.
Darth has like the DoorDash reward zone card, and the drivers literally know him by first name.
If it was a mobile game, I'd be like on VIP 14 plus or something crazy,
He's the number 1 player. They got him on speed dial. If anything happens, yeah. That's dark.
So I wanna walk us through like what like a really optimized dungeon run would feel like at level 60 with our party, right? So let's talk about Mad King. And you guys might have seen some Mad King gameplay, maybe not, but I'll just walk you through it here together, and just kind of walk you through the vibe. Not necessarily the damage numbers because it's gonna depend on your equipment and stuff. But so we're gonna start Mad King. There's a little entrance. So we're going to click the button. It's going to ask everyone to confirm. So once everybody confirms, then it'll start the dungeon together. And then immediately we're in sort of this first little room that has a boss in it. And you have to clear out 3 waves of skeletons in this first room to get to the first boss. So we clear those waves out. And how this is going to happen is after you do this dungeon a whole bunch of times, you're going to learn how to clear these waves like instantaneously. So what's going to happen is the 2 crusaders, the fastest people in the party, they're going to get on their horse and they're going to ride forward to the first wave, and they're just going to instantly blow up the whole thing. Meanwhile, we have the necromancer and the demon hunter, and they're just foot padding it behind, right? They're not even fast enough to get to that first wave to even do damage to it, but that's okay because they still have all their cooldowns, and we're going to need them in just a second. So like literally 1 second later, the second wave will come in, and as the demon hunter and necromancer catch up, the demon hunter is going to drop 2 of 3 of their multi-shots and just evaporate that second wave. And now the boss is going to start spawning. And as the boss starts spawning, the two crusaders are going to split up, and they're going to go and they're going to kill some of the other mobs in the room to keep our kill bonus going for more massacre XP. and to also like group all the enemies on the boss so we can just like nuke them all down at the same time. And by the time we've done that, the boss is spawned. And in the meantime, what the Demon Hunter is going to do is right as the animation for the boss is spawning, they're going to set up all of their single target DPS, right? So Reign of Vengeance, the multi-shot they have left. They're gonna prepare to drop all of these cooldowns on top of the boss. The boss comes up, they drop all of the cooldowns. It does 1,000,000 trillion damage. The support Crusader is going to drop their banner, which makes all of the Demon Hunter stuff automatically crit. And then the Necromancer is going to drop all of their cooldowns as well. And so we're just going to nuke the crap out of the boss.
Kind of sounds like a whole lot of I'm not doing anything, to be honest with you.
Well,
for the Necro?
no.
I sound borderline worthless.
No. For this boss, this is a pretty small room, right? So you're mostly acting as a little bit of extra damage on the boss and cleaning up some of the extra mobs.
I'm acting as a little bit of extra damage and cleaning up a little bit. My boys, we gotta change our class real quick. This ain't sounding good.
You're gonna be there for the show, yeah.
The next room, the Necromancer starts becoming way important, right?
All right.
The next room
Would it
different.
not be good to have sentries so that you can drop them down in preparation while the boss is kind of spawning? Then the sentries just start nuking. Like when you know a fight is coming in a specific location, wouldn't sentry be super strong?
Sentries is one of the builds we used in the alpha, and it's not bad. It's maybe something worth looking at in launch, depending on how they rebalance things. But we think there's a better build, and that's Reign of Vengeance. And what that does is essentially a gigantic evil bat will show up above the boss and start dropping grenades on the ground above it in this tiny little AoE, and it does an amazing amount of damage. So maybe the sentries are better. The main problem with the sentries is that this boss and a lot of bosses in the game summon ads, and you can't really control the AI of the sentries, so they might start attacking the ads, which is fairly not useful for most situations. And speaking of ads, though, we're going to go into the next room. So like we kill this boss, we go into the next room, and in this next room, we have this huge long hallway, right? So this now requires some different skill sets. So first of all, the Crusaders become a lot less useful in this room. So all they're really going to do is take their horse. They're going to go all the way to the end. Trigger Happy John. Oh wait, I'm missing this. So Trigger Happy John, Calorie Surplus, Hermit Fulgrim, Scratch Plays, and Caesarion. Thank you guys so much for the support. So the two Crusaders, you're gonna go all the way to the end of the room, right? You're just gonna ride your horse all the way to the end. Meanwhile, the Demon Hunter and the Necromancer, this is where you guys are gonna shine. We need to kill as many of these mobs in this room as possible, and the Crusaders just can't do it efficiently because they're all spread out and not really grouped up that well. So what y'all are gonna do is summon your minions. If you're using something like sentries, this is where sentries might be more useful. And you're going to be killing mobs as you like slowly move through the room, and you're going to just clean up everything. And it's going to be worth a ton of XP. It's going to add a ton of massacre bonus. And then by the time you get to the end of the room, the Crusaders, who by the way spent all of their cooldowns in that first room, are gonna at least have like half of the wave at the end of the room dead. And then you're going to help finish out that wave and spawn the boss. This boss is a little bit different.
I got a question though before we continue, because I want to try. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Well, Cobra, why don't you go first? Then go ahead.
All this action that you're talking about, how long is it in duration so far? Just to get it in the heads of everyone just watching or listening. Like, how long is up to now? Is it minutes?
So
are we talking seconds?
Weeks. So at this point in the run, when we're spawning the second boss, I think we're probably about 50 seconds in the run. A really efficient group.
Beating group.
Just to hype up Darth a little bit, wouldn't something like Skeletal Mage be really good when you're talking about kind of like continuing to move forward and letting things kind of clean up behind you?
That's exactly right. Yeah, Skeletal Mage, this is going to be for Necromancer, this is going to be your bread and butter of cleaning up and even doing DPS to like single target DPS to the boss. So what you can do here, and this is really cool, you can drop your skeletal mage, and there's all these mobs. There's this huge amount of mobs that you have to kill, but your character needs to move forward, right? So that you can get to the boss a little faster, save some time, that sort of thing. So you can just go ahead and drop the skeletal mage. It's going to kill everything for you as you move forward, and as you keep dropping more of your summons and mobs ahead of you, and you can just keep dealing with the enemies as you move, right? So you're really in this scenario where you're being the commander of the undead, and you're just like, hey, yo, kill that guy, yo, kill that guy.
Do you have to be like
guy.
pretty over leveled in order for your pets to be popping off like that? What's the difficulty level like on this? Like when we're talking about this, when it comes to fast grinding, I'm assuming you guys are, I mean, I'm watching the footage. You guys are strong enough where you're just like crushing everything instantly. Is that the normal gameplay experience? Like, is it supposed to be this fast? Or is this like, we're talking in game, you've already got like 98% of everything you need and you're grinding for the extra little bit? I'm trying to understand where we're at on the power level.
It does depend. So it really does depend. So there's kind of two ways you can approach it. The first way is you can farm the dungeon runs, right? And you can go in there and you can be on a difficulty level, whether it's Hell 1 to Hell 2, that is either at or maybe slightly above, below your current like gear threshold, right? And I think that's what most people are going to do. 95% of the player base they're going to be, because the game sort of like corrals you into it. It says, okay, well, you're Paragon level 20. Well, you shouldn't do Hell 2 until Paragon level 30, is what it says. It's a little too hard for you now. So by and large, you're going to go in, you're just going to blast everything down, and it's a great time. However, if you really want to, what you can do is you can kind of snipe higher difficulty levels before the game tells you you're supposed to be there, right? So like, let's say you're Paragon 20 and you have pretty good gear, and you're like, you know what? I want to go to Hell 2 to get some additional rewards, to get some better gear, get some better loot, and I want to quote unquote pre-farm it. That's kind of how we refer to it before your Paragon 30.
How much of your because I'm trying to get a good grasp of like power levels. Then, how much of where you're going to be able to farm efficiently in Hell is based upon how strong your legendary gems are? Like, how much of that is in the equation here?
Ooh, I mean, based on beta information, right? It kind of depends on how much you've like whaled it up, right? So
yeah, that's where I'm going with this.
If you've whaled it up a ton based on the beta, you might have like up to something like a 500 CR difference. And that 500 CR difference, like just to give you an idea, right? Like Hell 2 is about 1300 CR in the beta, right?
You mean cooldown reduction, correct?
No, I mean
combat rating.
Combat rating. That's why I was confused. I was like 1500 CR. CDR is cooldown reduction. Okay.
I'm getting into the jargon here. I gotta be careful of that. Okay. Yes,
no, you're good.
Combat rating.
Is there a jargon page?
Is there a jargon page?
There you go.
You gotta have it.
Next Max Roll guide, jargon guide.
Jargon 101.
Oh, you gotta have it.
Actually, I'll tell you a funny story about some jargon. So what you're seeing on the screen right now, this is something called the Ancient Nightmare. It's one of the events in the game. And these events are all over the place. Every zone has their own event, and they happen at different times. We think they've changed them a bit so that they happen on different days of the week or something. But, well, we don't know the exact details about how they're going to be at launch. But essentially, there was one of these events, and it's called the Haunted Carriage. And the Haunted Carriage is in Ashwold Cemetery, and it goes around the entire zone, and you kind of follow it until it gets to the end, and then there's a little boss that you kill. And what's cool about this is it's kind of like world bosses in Guild Wars, if you've ever done like a world boss there. And so you get a little world boss, and then you have like 20 people, and you just like DPS the hell out of it, and it just dies instantly from a ton of DPS. It's amazing. So what people ended up thinking is that So this guy drops 6 enchanted dust when you kill him. And enchanted dust is this little yellow material component that you use to upgrade your gear. So what people were thinking is like, oh, this enchanted dust, it's kind of like, it looks like cheese, or it looks like pizza. And so people started calling it the pizza carriage. And so instead, because carriage is really hard to type on a mobile phone with your thumbs, like, or like haunted carriage. And autocorrect doesn't know what the word carriage is for some reason. So pizza is kind of what people call the haunted carriage in Ashwold, and it's one of the best events in the game too. Like it's really easy to do, gives you some good rewards, that sort of thing.
Is that the story behind pizza?
That's also the story behind pizza as well. Yeah. So yeah, Leviathan. Shout outs to Leviathan for coining that as well. I think he was the first person to come up with that term. Where were we? I forgot. I've lost myself.
We were talking about Skeleton King and power levels, the gems, and kind of combat rating, stuff like that.
Yeah, yes. Okay, back to gems for a second. Yeah. So, if you want to play Hell 2, that's like 1300 CR. And someone who really wails hard might have 500 more CR than you based on beta numbers. Again, we don't know. That could change. But that differential could change. So they might be like a week ahead of you, maybe 2 weeks. I don't know, in terms of being able to do that level of difficulty if they just wailed like super, super hard. In terms of like being able to do that kind of stuff. Skill also comes into it as well, though. My impression from a lot of the whales in the beta was like they weren't the most skilled players. So they might not even be aware that they could go and like pre-farm these higher difficulties. They might just say, oh, well, I'm not Paragon 30. I'm not going to even try, but
one of the questions that people had asked, because we've done a lot of collabs together, was, did you spend any money in the beta? And
I did, yeah.
Like a lot, because people were trying to understand the power level. You're a very well-known player, and you're very well known for being like basically one of the best there is, and holding that spot for the longest. So I think people want to know how much you spent basically, and how much do you think that helped you?
Yeah, so first, a couple things. Before I became Immortal, my store in the game was busted, so I couldn't even spend money if I wanted to. So I became Immortal as a free-to-play player.
Nice.
Ooh, that's cool.
After I became Immortal, my store unlocked, and what I decided to do is I was like, you know what? I really love this game, so I'm going to budget it like I would buy a modern MMORPG, which would be like $60 at retail and then like $15 a month, right? So that's how I adjusted my spending, was to say like, okay, what would I actually spend if this was like a pay for game, and that's what I spent.
That's pretty. I mean, as far as a mobile game goes, that's pretty reasonable.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely not a whale. So
yeah, it's definitely within the budget of many who are within the age group of our audience, I would say.
You should see what some of these raid players spend.
Oh yeah, the raid players go heavy.
I mean, there definitely were players who spent lots and lots of money in the beta, right? Even on our server, I think the player that spent the most spent like $9,000 to $10,000, somewhere in that range on our server. I know the Korean server, I think the highest spend was somewhere in the range of like 17,000 USD. And then I think the Korean server had actually the biggest whale, somewhere more in the range of like 20 to 30.
Can I
That's what I'm aware of.
People are freaking out and throwing these numbers like 50,000, 60,000. It's like, I just don't see it.
Those are table flip
There's some
discussions.
videos.
Yeah.
There's some videos around on those, and
because
Aswan Gold also reacted to one.
Yeah. I'm highly aware of these videos, and they're not wrong, right? From the beta, there are problems that we've pointed out to Blizzard where we said, hey, this system, it's completely uncapped pay to win, and that's awful, and you need to fix that. Or like the rune system, right? You're like, hey, I'm never going to spend any of these runes because this sucks. Fix this, right? So some of this like uncapped pay to win stuff is pretty bad from the beta. And what's interesting to me is that we still don't have any like public information about what they've changed. And I think what that means is they haven't finalized it yet. Like we're like 2 weeks, 3 weeks to launch something like that. And maybe they haven't finalized some of these changes yet. So maybe we'll find out before launch. I'm not. I certainly hope so. But
So
I'm
you're
not sure
saying
what's going to happen?
Skill, you can do just fine with a reasonable budget. If you put the time in to be good at the game.
In PvP and even in challenge rifts. Okay, so yeah, this is really funny. So we had in beta some competition from some fairly toxic players who like we've dealt with.
No
you
way,
guys-
toxic
No,
players.
I don't believe
I don't
No.
believe that shit, bro. I
Lies.
never saw that before.
And what's funny is these folks had spent somewhere in the range at this point, somewhere in the range of $1,000 to like $4,000 in the game.
Okay.
Meanwhile, some of us had spent in the range of in our group in the range of like $100 to $400. So like 10x less than these
Right.
players. And so we went to challenge rifts, and something to know about challenge rifts: at the end of each month, there's a challenge rift leaderboard, and the leaderboard is very similar to like greater rifts in Diablo 3. And if you can do a higher clear than other people, at the end of the month, you get special rewards. And the special rewards are actually really good. It's a salvage component that you can only get from challenge rifts to upgrade your gear. So there's some good rewards for being on top of the leaderboard at the end of the month, and then they reset for the next month. So at the end of the month, with these folks, at the end of November 2021, these folks were clearing challenge rift 49, and then they were able to push it up to 50 in their 4-player, and we did 55. So like,
Yeah.
we had less stats than these guys, and we outplayed the hell out of them because
seemed-
they just didn't. They didn't know the build. Their build sucked. They didn't know how to like really play the game that well.
I'm assuming it's kind of like what Marvel Future Revolution was, with like the number one best resource you can possibly have is a good group of 4. Like that's how Marvel was. Whereas basically your people were your best resource by a long shot.
If you know what builds to pick and you know how to play them, like skill, like I guess the point is like skill matters a lot. And the way that we at Maxroll are kind of measuring the skill in a challenge rift is we do what's called a challenge rift CR differential. And let me explain what a challenge rift CR differential is, because or a challenge rift combat rating differential. I got to get out of the jargon. So the combat rating differential, basically the challenge rift itself, every like level of challenge rift has a combat rating that you're fighting against, right? So the monsters in the rift will have a combat rating, and then you will have a combat rating, right? So let's say the monster's combat rating is like 3,000 and your combat rating is 2,700, then the combat rating differential will be 300 there, right? And what we discovered is like the best players in the game might be able to do somewhere in the range of 500 to 600 CR differential before it becomes impossible to do anything else. So if you are just like, if you're the Woody Joes of the world, if you're the Robs of the world, you're going to be pushing 500, 550, maybe 600 CR differential. Meanwhile, somebody who's a lot less skilled than you, maybe they can only push 200 CR differential. So like, just because you whale, you might have a higher differential, but that doesn't mean you have the skills to actually clear it.
What is the scaling of these challenge rifts? Like in Diablo 3, it's 17%. So like, every 5 rifts about doubles the difficulty. What is the scaling on those? Like, is going from 50 to 55 doubly hard, or is it like a little bit less? Is it like 5% per tier? Or?
I forget the exact number, but if off the top of my head, I think it's somewhere in the range of like 70, 80 CR differential for each tier. So like if
Oh,
let's say you were at tier like 60 and tier 60 was 3,000 and then you go to tier 61. Tier 61 would be like 3,070 CR.
Okay. Yep. Gotcha. So it's a flat. It's not a percent scale.
Well, CR itself is a percent scale. So like the differential between your CR and the monster's CR is a percentage of DPS and defense.
Okay. Cool. Gotcha. Thank you.
So that's why you see these damage like you'll see the damage numbers basically stay the same. So like let's say your CR is like let's say your CR is 2,700 again, to use the same example. The monsters is like 3,000, and you walk into the 3,000 challenge drift 60, whatever it is, and you're doing like around 900 damage a shot. Then you walk into 61, you're probably going to be doing like 500 damage a shot, something like that. So you'll see that differential is like a percentage based increase or decrease depending which way you go.
Cool.
It's
Thanks.
really cool. It's really cool how the CR works, I think.
Well, and it kind of normalizes the numbers and makes it a little bit easier to follow compared to something like Diablo 3, probably.
Yeah, you're never going to have infinitely increasing numbers where you're sitting on like quadrillions of damage where you just don't understand what the numbers mean anymore. Yeah.
How's the experience work? So could I party up with a buddy who just cleared the campaign and then run him through something that's way higher and because it's way higher, he's going to get better drops and more experience and all? Is boosting a thing or?
So boosting is a thing, but probably not power leveling in the sense that like it is in like Diablo 2 or Diablo 3. So like in Diablo 2, Diablo 3, in like 15 minutes, let's say in Diablo 2, you run someone through all the acts and then they're in hell and then you drop them some like the garbage equipment and then now they're doing hell and they're getting massive amounts of XP because they're getting hell XP. In this game, all the XP is normalized, right? So a monster is going to give you the same XP pretty much no matter the content that you're doing. But if you partner with a buddy and a buddy comes back to normal mode with you, they're going to have so much more gear and equipment and other stuff that they'll kill the monsters faster. So you'll still be massively more efficient than if you were just playing by yourself.
Understood.
Can I jump in with a random question, or do you have a topic you're trying to move on to?
No.
Okay. Thank you. One question I get a lot is regarding ping. Like, like if our main clan is on US West, I get a question of, what if I live in New York and I'm on the East? Can I still play with friends on the West server? Or people in Europe that really want to play with somebody who's an American? Would that just be like undoable? Like, how brutal is the ping breakdown?
I think in this game, it's not something that you would want to do for the most part. It really depends. So like, let's say you're in Germany and you want to play with East Coast. It's playable. Your ping is going to be a lot higher than usual. But I think you're going to be a lot happier if you're on an EU server. So, if you want to play a West Coast server, I don't know. That's too much for me.
Well, like, so in terms of like structuring clans, do you want like to try and get a whole conglomerate on like US West, or do you want like a separate one, like do one on West and East and have two different kind of clan systems? Is there like a way that leaders should be thinking about structuring these things differently?
Yeah. So what we know about clans right now is that, first of all, the clan size hasn't been finalized. We think it's 100, like 70% chance it's 100, 30% chance it's 150. That's my current.
That's what I was kind of hearing.
That's my current take, right? So I would plan for 100 in a clan. Now, other cool piece of information is that the Immortals will have 3 clans total. So what you may want to do is you may want to run, if you're super hardcore, you may want to run 3 clans on one server. If you're like,
Yeah.
this is for the folks who have like 1,000 people in a Discord server and they're blasting hard, right? Then what you do is you have one clan get Immortal and then invite the other 2 clans to Immortals. And then you all be Immortals together and be really successful. And then this is really important. If you're an Immortal for, I believe, 7 days or more in any reign, you're locked out of the next Immortal cycle. So all 3 clans will have to go Shadows the next cycle after you get kicked out. And then you go and you do it again, right? You take it next time. And what you might want to do is you might want to start rotating who the Immortal is, right? So like person who's the head of clan 1 is Immortal, then person who's head of clan 2 is Immortal, then person who's head of clan 3 is Immortal. That way that's a little more fun. You get more people who get little slightly different reigns and different vibe to the server in general. Because being Immortal is more than just being like the winner of the game. You're also kind of like the president of the whole server. Because like you have your statue in West March, you're on the wall. Everyone's gonna know who you are, whether they like you or hate you. You know, you're gonna get the hate mail. You're gonna get the fangirls in your DMs. You know, so I think that's kind of how you structure it. You either go for one like really tight knit clan of 100 people, or you go for 3 clans of 100 people.
Yeah, and I was asking because it's hard to decide if you should break people up into US West and US East, or I don't know if the ping's going to be 78 or like 278. So it's really hard to kind of decide the structure because running 6 teams would be kind of hard to split things up West and East, and it'd be a lot easier if you could. I wish they would just have it in like the Central or something, but
yeah. So I'll give you some rough numbers from the beta. Now these are beta servers, right? So maybe they're not as beefy as production release servers, and maybe they don't have the same networking and all this kind of stuff. But when I was playing from the West to the East, I was getting about 80 ping, 50 to 80 ping. And I have gigabit Ethernet.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. It's pretty good ping. But also I have gigabit Ethernet. So, if you're...
But usually gigabit doesn't really affect your ping that much, because like I know on Overwatch it constantly shows my ping, and when I went from cable internet that was like 40, my ping was like 60, and when I went to gigabit my ping was like 55.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're looking at like 50 to 80 coast to coast maybe.
That's encouraging. Okay, thank you for that. That's encouraging.
That's a rough guess. We'll see what production has. Maybe it'll be better if it's in production.
Well, I know because in Diablo, yeah. Well, I know in Diablo 3 because we had hundreds of players in our clan as well, and we were kind of having to make these same decisions. And yeah, it was like your ping was like 20 if it was your server, and then it was like 70, and then we'd have like some European players where it was like 200 something, but they wanted to be in the clans, so they were willing to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what those numbers are.
The other thing to note here is this game doesn't have a hardcore mode, and I don't think, based on how the game is organized, probably won't ever have hardcore. And so something that's really important to hardcore players is ping, right? So like in Diablo 3, as a SSF hardcore player, I would join a game, and the game sort of like randomizes where you are. And if I got on the wrong server, if it threw me on an East Coast server and my ping is 80 instead of 30, I would leave the game and recreate. And
same.
Keep doing that until I got 30 ping.
Yeah, we would literally, in Diablo 3, we would split up our group and have all 4 people create games until we got a good ping from somebody, and then we would all join that one.
Yeah, that's exactly how you would do it. And then, okay, so EU to East Coast. I think a lot of people are seeing more like 120 in terms of ping. Maybe 100 if you have really good internet.
Still pretty good.
You got that amazing German internet. So then if you're going from East Coast to like Australia, now you're looking at like 300 ping. Is
What do you
now
think
now
is
you're teleporting across the screen a little bit. Now you're rubber banding. You're doing this sort of thing.
Yeah. What about like Europe to West? Probably like 225.
We didn't have, so there was no West server in beta, so we didn't have a way of testing that. But I would guess it's higher than East. So you're probably looking at 200 ish, maybe 225, something like that.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. That's good insight.
Yeah. So if you're setting up all these clans, what I'd really do is, you might want to split them up. You might want to have a clan in West. You might want to have a clan in East if you're NA. If you're Europe, by the way, there's going to be different servers even in inter-region, right? That they're not all necessarily in the same data center, right? So you might pick like a different country for a different server. There's going to be a bunch of servers for you to pick from.
Yeah,
so you might
I'm
want to
almost
split things.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to cut you off. You can go ahead and finish.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just kind of, thinking out loud. I think, would it make sense to like have 3 clans on US West and then have 3 clans US East and then also integrate your European friends into that US East team? Because, you'll have like the people in Central America, they'll only be at like 50 or 60. The East people will be great. And then the Europe people will be at like 100 to 120 where it's still playable. And you can really kind of hit 3 markets there.
Really depends on how many EU players you have, right? So if you just have a massive EU players, then I don't know, maybe support an EU server as well. If you don't have that though, and you just, let's say you have 10 EU players and they want to absolutely play with you no matter what, then yeah, play on an East Coast server. You're going to have a lot better ping. You're going to have a lot better time playing together that way. The other thing in this whole ping discussion, I think that's really important, is the vibe of this game is going to be, and we've talked about this a little bit before, the vibe of this game is going to be like your server. So it's not like WoW where there's like cross server raids and cross server dungeons and all the stuff is cross server and everything just feels like one amorphous blob of a community. Your community is really going to be server based, kind of like really old school WoW in a way. And yeah, so you're going to get to know the people who are the best people on your server because you're going to see their names over and over and over and over again.
I kind of like the small town vibe in these type of games, to be honest, where you like recognize people and keep playing with them. It's always more enjoyable than just like, oh, here's another random person I'm never going to see again.
Cool. And I saw somebody in the chat asked if there's going to be leaderboards, like, how in Diablo 3, there was like 2-person, 3-person, 4-person, and each class had its own leaderboard. Is there anything like that?
Ooh, oh man, there's a lot of leaderboards. I mean, even in the beta, there was like 7 leaderboards, I think. So, and even without leaderboards, people still compete for certain things, right? So like we can talk about that too, but let's talk about the leaderboards first. So first leaderboard that a lot of people are going to see is the Challenge Rift leaderboard. It's probably the one you're going to see the very first. And we've already talked about Challenge Rifts a little bit, but there's actually multiple Challenge Rift leaderboards. So the first one is for your class. So every class has their own leaderboard. And every week you can get a little bit of like extra gold, a little bit of extra like not that important rewards for being on top of the Challenge Rift leaderboard. It's something, and it's something to compete for, but the rewards aren't like terribly important. It's just gold. And those reset every weekly. And the weekly reset, by the way, is Monday at 3 a.m. Server time, whatever your server.
It's good to know.
Happens to be. So then there are group Challenge Rift leaderboards for 2-player, 3-player, and 4-player. And each of these gives that like really awesome reward I talked about earlier, which is the enigmatic crystals that you can upgrade your secondary slots with. But that's only monthly. So you're going to see a lot. You're going to see that leaderboard like basically not be important at all until the very last couple of days of the month. And then the very last couple of days of the month, people are just going to be blasting it. And so you're going to see like, that top group, they got 51. Oh, that other top group, they got 52. The other top group got 53. And it's going to go back and forth in that top 10 and even beyond that, right?
It's exactly what happened in Marvel. It's like right before the leaderboards were in, people would just be like, all right, let me go put my attempts in. And then it would be a shootout.
Yeah, it'll be this huge shootout because fishing and luck also factors into challenges.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like Greater Rifts, it's very much the Greater Rift experience from D3 when it comes to challenge rifts. Now, there's more than just that, right? Like, so in the tech alpha, challenge rift leaderboards, that was like the end game, and that's all that we focused on. In the beta and beyond, there's so much more. Like the challenge rifts, that's a little side hustle. So now, if you're in the shadows, you're going to compete on the individual shadow leaderboard. And what this is how many marks you can collect. So marks, you get marks for doing these PvEVP activities, for completing sort of like the shadow quests, contracts, Path of Blood, doing the vaults, participating in the Rite of Exile, like doing all this stuff. And if you get the most marks of anybody in the shadows, you go on the shadow leaderboard. And everybody's going to know that you're the most badass shadow out of all of them.
But what you get once you're at the top of the leaderboard? Is it the gold or?
So
you get rewards.
There's no rewards for being at the top of the shadow leaderboard. At least there wasn't in the beta. So this is more of a like, I'm the best kind of thing. But
bragging rights.
You get bragging rights, yes.
Got it.
But also, when you get marks, you level up your shadow rank, and your shadow rank gives you percentage-based damage increase and percentage-based defense.
So you do kind of get something for it in a way.
You get some huge rewards for it. Yeah, it's massive. The other thing, this is actually really important. If you want to get in the best clan, and you're the top guy on the Shadows leaderboards, and you're not in the best clan, well, they can't ignore you anymore.
That's a good point. It's a recruitment tool. I guess that's a really good point.
You're going to get group invites. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the part I keep coming back to, like why I'm excited by the game. And it's because it feels like it's going to be an actual MMO where you have a reason to talk to, meet, and play with other players, which just is so rare in mobile games.
Mm-hmm. You're definitely going to, you're going to see, let's say you're leading a clan, you're going to see that guy who's on top of the Shadows leaderboards, or the top 10 even, and you're going to go, oh, wait a second, this person doesn't have a clan. Hey, how are you doing?
I think I saw some footage of you doing that in the background
slip
earlier.
Into the DMs. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're a clan leader, it's really important to be like ABC, always be recruiting. ABR, whatever.
ABC, always be closing, baby. Always be closing. Always be closing.
Jordan Belfort.
So yeah, you have the Shadows leaderboards. And similar to that, you will have Immortals leaderboards. Now, Immortals leaderboards, slightly different vibe. So there's less Immortals. So what you're going to get is you're going to get points. I think they're called points. I actually forget exactly what they're called. But what this lets you do is pretty important as opposed to the Shadows. So Shadows is bragging rights. You're going to get invited to like the best clan, this sort of thing. You're going to get the damage and defense bonuses. But whereas the Shadows, you're really focused on sort of the individual, and the Immortals, you're focused on the group, right? So you only get damage and defense when all of the Immortals get damage and defense when you level up the Immortals as a group, right? So what you're actually getting is you're getting first in line to bid for the vault. And we haven't talked about the vault at all. So this is going to get real interesting here. So let's talk about the vault, you guys.
Okay.
So the Immortals have this special thing called the vault. And what it is it's a big shared loot storage, and random loot gets just deposited into the vaults. Loot and treasure. By the way, it's loot and gold and hilts. Hilts is pretty important as well. And so at the end of the week, you're going to get some piece of the loot as an immortal. And you're going to get some gold, you're going to get some hilts, and you're going to get some based on the amount of participation that you've had in the immortals for that week. Then on top of that, if you're let's say you're first in line, you have the most points, you get first dibs on whatever loot is in that vault. So if there's a godly piece of gear in there, you can basically bid on it. It's kind of like it's almost like DKP or EPGP and sort of like these other systems where you say, okay, like I was number 1 in terms of contribution this week. I want that item, and you get first dibs, and you get the item.
So there's a reason to actually play the game and contribute throughout the week.
Yeah, specifically to do the immortal activities, because there's a lot you can do in the game that's not immortal stuff, right?
Well, I mean, but from what I understand, and the part that, I mean, that's awesome. But the part that's really kind of cool to me is even if you're not an immortal, don't you get a chance to raid the vault and get some goodies?
Yeah, this is the PvEVP part of the game, and the way that as a shadow you're going to be able to stick it to the immortals the most is that not only so you can raid the vault as a shadow, right? And when you raid the vault, you are literally taking away some of the rewards that the immortals would have earned that week. So you're diminishing their rewards, and you're earning it for yourself. You're not giving it to any of the other shadows. It's just you. Now you're limited on how many vaults you can do per day and that sort of thing. So you can't just like drain the whole vault yourself by just doing them nonstop, right? But there's so many shadows. There's going to be thousands of shadows on the server, right? That it's entirely possible that if the immortals don't defend their vaults, that you could literally drain them of everything they have. You can take every penny they own, right? And it includes the gear too.
And how's that defending work?
Okay, yeah. So let's talk about it from the shadows perspective, right? So in order to go into the vault, you have to have a 4-player group, required 4-player activity. So you have like us 4, the 2 Crusaders, the Demon Hunter, the Necromancer. We go in there, and when you go in there, there's going to be, you can even see it on the screen. The vault is under attack on my screen right now. Yeah. So you're going to go in there, and there's these NPC statue guys that are in there. And you're going to run in there, and you're just going to blast them down. You're going to start destroying these things. They're going to drop this thing called Essentia, which doesn't do anything for you as a shadow, but is very important to the Immortals. So you start stealing the Immortals' Essentia, which like inhibits their progression as an Immortal. And then you're going to find treasure chests that have gold and hilts in them as you go along. And on the lower levels of the vault, they're going to have legendary items in them as well. But every once in a while, there's going to be a warden that spawns. And the wardens, they're slippery. They run around. They're kind of difficult to catch. And you have to kill them before they sound the alarm. And so let's say you're on level 1. It's easy. You get past level 1, right? You kill any wardens that spawn. And at the end of level 1, all of your rewards, all the stuff you've earned at that point is banked. So you can't lose those anymore. So you get all that stuff. So now you're on level 2 and you do the same thing. But let's say one of your members wasn't really watching very closely and the warden kind of sneaks away and the alarm goes off. So when the alarm goes off, at that point, the Immortals have like it alerts the Immortals, number 1. So all the Immortals will get an in-game notification. It'll say the vault's under attack. But in practice, there's like 30 Immortals who are sitting outside the vault at all times, who are just waiting for the alarm to go off. And they're literally spamming the button. They're sitting here just like spamming it. And so the second the alarm goes off, there's 4 Immortals that are just going to hop in. They're going to already be there, and Crusader's going to hop up on their pony. Necromancer is going to what's the ability's name?
Necromance.
Necromancer's going to do their blood rush thing to go forward. Demon Hunter, everybody's going to use their movement abilities.
It's Wraith form, right?
Wraith form.
Wraith
Yes,
form.
thank you. So they're all going to move in together, and before you know it, they're going to be right on top of you, and they're going to be running as a 4-man group, and you're going to be attacking these little NPCs with your cooldowns down. They're going to destroy you. They're going to annihilate you, right? They're going to just curb stomp you, especially if it's early in the cycle and you haven't earned some of the, you haven't ranked up your shadow rank, and you don't have any of the other damage and defense bonuses yet, right? They just run in, they just slam dunk you, and you're gonna die. And anything that's on that floor that you had earned, you're gonna lose because you didn't complete the floor. So now let's say you are one of the top groups in the shadows, okay, and you are you're in the number 1 clan, and you're one of the top 4 player groups on the server. Then the Immortals come in, and you're gonna have a real PvP fight, right? Because you both have a lot of gear, you both have a lot of skill in the game, and you go and you have a real good PvP fight. And if you win, let's say you win, the Immortals can't enter the vault anymore. So now you get free reign of the rest of the vault. Don't have to worry about the wardens anymore, and you just go and you just steal everything you possibly can.
Damn.
Pretty awesome.
So that's going to be an incentive to always be online, so you can catch those. How often do they get a chance to raid the vault? Are they constantly raiding it?
That's actually a good point. Oh, by the way, Gaz in the chat. Gaz, huge beta player. Had some amazing fights with him in the vaults. So the vault is not open 24 hours a day. It opens, at least in the beta, it opened at noon, and it closed at 10 p.m. server time. So you do not have to be awake at 3 a.m. to defend your vaults if you're immortal, or you can't you can't be a shadow and set your alarm for 3 a.m. and be the Immortals aren't online. I'm gonna raid the vault. No, you can't do that.
There you go.
Now they might adjust the times some more. They might say, hey, the vault's only open. They might narrow the time window, or one of our pieces of feedback was, hey, why don't you just make a queue for the vaults, so the Immortals don't have to sit there and wait and spam the button and do this kind of behavior, because it's kind of annoying. But yeah, essentially you're not going to be sitting there 24 hours a day trying to raid this thing.
Got it.
And then as a shadow, you can only really realistically raid it for rewards once a day.
It's still pretty good though. I like how many daily activities it seems like there. Now I don't know if it's going to be like Marvel.
Seems to be a lot of stuff to do. Yeah.
It seems like there's a ton. But one of the questions I have is, in Marvel, they had a basically there's a leaderboard for literally everything. There's a million leaderboards, kind of like it sounds like there's for Diablo. And what they ended up doing is a lot of people would just find what it is that they like to do, and then that was sort of their leaderboard grind, or that was the thing they go for. Someone did the battle challenges, some did PvP, whatever. So you ended up seeing people that were just really good at one thing. Is Diablo going to be the type of thing where you have to do all of the activities that kind of forces you? Because you said there's certain materials you can only get from certain places. Or is it really going to develop niche players that just really like doing challenge rifts or whatever?
You're going to do everything, I think. I mean, if you're a hardcore player, right? If you want to be as powerful as humanly possible, you're going to do everything. It really does incentivize you to do multiple things. And I'll give you an example here from Diablo 3, right? So Diablo 3, you have the end game there. You have bounties and you have greater rifts, right? And greater rifts give you way more XP and loot. So why would you ever do bounties? People hate doing bounties. Bounties suck. And the problem there is that you can do greater rifts forever, and you can do bounties forever. So they learned from that design mistake, and what they say in Immortal is they're like, you know what? Actually, we can make the rewards better for this thing if we just limit it to a number of times per day or per week or whatever it is, right? And so consequentially, you do like a contract for the shadows, right? And you can do those once a day. On the first day of the week, you can do 3. So a contract feels really rewarding, but you can't just sit there and grind contracts all day. Now you want to go do something else that adds some variety to the gameplay and is also very rewarding because you have a limit in terms of how many times you can do per day. Also, I should mention, like, this isn't like hard line. Most of these mechanics aren't hard line per day. Usually they stack up to 3. So like you have like something called the daily activity quest that will stack up to 3. Contracts will stack up to 3. I believe bounties stack up to 3. 3 days of bounties in a row. Like these sorts of things, usually they stack up to 3 days.
In case you get like sick or get stuck working a weekend or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's I think it's geared that way because I think a lot of people might not play during the week. And so, maybe they'll play like on Wednesday, like do like a Wednesday night thing, and then, come the weekend, then they're going to blast. Then they're going to spend all that time investing in the game. They're going to catch up on all their quests and they're going to do all that kind of stuff. And a lot of the events, the really important events for the game, are also set to happen on Saturday, Sunday, so that people can kind of be online for the weekends as well. So there's like something called the Rite of Exile. We've mentioned this a little times. This is the PvP, like end game PvP activity to see if you overthrow the Immortals. And that happened in the beta at 8 p.m. on Sunday night. Now, our feedback for that one specifically was, okay, 8 p.m. is maybe the wrong time. Let's pull this back to like a 1 p.m. or 10 a.m. or something on Sunday, because 8 p.m. is people going to sleep for work on Monday, So let's pull this back just a little bit. And but still, it's like on the weekend, right? This kind of stuff.
There's one other question I had too, which is that I know you have to do everything in the game, but when it comes to like upgrading items, is there, and kind of just farming your items and kind of the real basic stuff. I'm thinking like casual average gamer here. Are you really forced to make sure you participate in PvP in order to enhance your character power? Or because there's some people that just do not like PvP in games no matter what. And all they want to do is play classic Diablo. They're not interested in it. So is that possible? Or are you pretty much forced that you have to do Battlegrounds, you have to participate in them more than the Shadow system to really, increase your hero power? Is it pretty much mandatory or?
It's not mandatory, yeah. So if you're more casual to, I want to say like, frequent player, not a hardcore player, not a blaster tier player, but you're one of these casual players. You might play, your play time in the week might be like 4 hours total. Let's say something like that, right, or below. Then in that case, you're probably going to be doing more of just the PvE activities in the game, and you're going to have way much to do. You're going to be even able to do a lot of this stuff solo. So bounties really geared towards solo players. Contracts in the shadows really geared towards solo players. Even just going around in the world and just like killing things like you see on the screen right now. I'm doing this by myself. I'm not in a party, right? I'm like hunting pages and doing the events in the game and that sort of thing. Just riding around on my horse, like doing sort of things. Like one of the top players in the game playing completely solo, right? So a lot of these activities you are going to end up doing solo because they're geared towards solo players. Also, there's some data mine stuff that might be more solo oriented that we've seen. There's something called a Chaos Rift. I don't know if that's final or anything. Again, data mine, like, let me color the data mine content for people. So, like, by the way, at Max Roll, we don't really consider data mined content to be, like, accurate because what the data mine actually is it's like some shady guy in like a back alley with like a CD in 2022, right? Yeah. He's like, hey, I got a data mine for you.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You want some Diablo Immortal content? Like it's it's kind of like
Are
that.
you trying to tell me that's not what it is?
I don't know about this, guys. So, it's one of those things. So be very careful when you're talking about data mine stuff. But it does give you a little bit of an idea of like what could be coming maybe. And this Chaos Rift thing, if you've played Lost Ark, and you know what the cube is, it might be like that, where it's this little what's the terminology? It's a little roguelike that's built into
procedural
Immortal.
Type of thing, right?
Yeah, like procedurally generated thing. That's what it looks like right now. And that sounds really cool. I want to do something like that, where basically you'd start off with no skills or legendaries, and you'd kind of earn them as you go. Oh man, that sounds so cool to me.
I stepped away for like 3 minutes to get something to drink, but so let me know if this is a stupid question because you addressed it. But a question I get a lot is about the daily playtime to kind of like do your part and keep pace with your clan. Like let's say you're out of town for a couple days, but you at least want to like log in real quick at night before bed and do some stuff really quick so you don't just go AFK for 3 days. Are people looking at like 45 minutes or like 3 hours just to kind of like do the minimum and keep pace with your daily quest type stuff?
If you're a hardcore player and you want to do all the stuff in the game, right, maybe like 45 minutes to an hour every day to keep up with all the dailies and stuff that you have to do in the game. Generally how I would do it is like first thing in the morning I'd wake up, and before I even turned the stream on, I was on the couch and I was like grinding the dailies, mostly solo, not really grouping up for a lot of them, and just kind of getting them done. And then when I turn the stream on, then we're doing some more interesting group content, and at that point, although some people find the solo stuff more interesting, right? It's a bit more chill, I'll say, right? Like you can see me running around here. It's a bit more chill. There's not a lot of like, the stakes are pretty low, right? Like if I don't pick up this page,
challenge, basically.
No big deal if I don't pick up this page. But if I've got 3 people rolling with me and we're trying to do dungeons in a minute and 50 or less, like, and like I'm relying on Darth's like necromancer buffs, and like you're trying to drop your vengeance at the same time, or we're trying to like time all this stuff together. It's a bit more interesting, like group play.
Yeah, and I remember that from Diablo 3. But you get to a point where you play enough, you can kind of just sense it, and everybody kind of fills their role without even needing to like call it out.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing. I mean, you don't have to play this game on Discord either. Like you can just kind of be in game, and there will be a meta for the game, and so you go into a dungeon, and people just kind of know what to do. You don't really need to necessarily, call shots and be like, oh, this guy's stunned. Okay, rotate next stun. Like it's not that intense. So like you can still kind of just blast with people and have fun.
You're telling me people aren't breaking out in arguments and raging over if they missed their pixels or not?
Many whelps.
DPS now.
More
Stop
dots.
DPS.
More dots. Now
Stop
DPS
DPS.
is very, very slowly.
Not that I saw in the beta. I don't think it ever got that testy. It never people like we would wipe on Lassel or whatever, because we were trying to snipe Lassel at like 1100 CR instead of like Lassel is rated at 1300 CR, but we were trying to snipe him like at 1100. And of course everyone is like, oh, I can do Lassel. We'll be like, what's your CR? And they're like, I'm 700. Like, no, you're not doing Lassel, man. You're not doing it. You're half the CR you need to be. Oh man. So I mean there's like some skill there, but it wasn't that try hard. At least in the beta, it wasn't. Maybe that will be different at launch, and everybody will be racing to be like world first Lassel kill, and you'll have like the methods of the world.
I mean, I highly expect to be
it.
world's first in literally everything, so no big deal. Just world's first boss kill, max level in every class. By the way, I'm going to level 6 accounts all at the same time to get world first in all of them.
Multi-box.
You got to be multi-boxing?
Six
game, Derek?
of course, I got to get world's first in every class at the same time. That's the only way.
Multi-spending, yeah.
Dual wielding
Now-
credit cards.
Could you imagine, dude? You would go crazy. I couldn't doing 6 at once.
I will mention it's pretty hard to bot this game. Like skill matters a lot in this game, and if you just have a bot that's moving between place to place and earning XP, then it's not really doing you much.
That is a question I saw popping up a lot. Is like combating like the botting or the cheating or the abusing, or will there be things like in Diablo 3 where people had like turbo HUD with map hacks and see where all the elite packs are? Is there any sort of inclination on the stuff like that, or?
I mean, I don't think there's not going to be botting, right? There's definitely going to be bots because it's a video game. However, I think they've carefully designed the game such that if someone makes a bot and programs it to run around and kill mobs, like that doesn't do much for you, right? It doesn't. That's not what you really need to do in this game to be successful, especially at the highest levels, right? To be successful in this game, you have to group up with 4 other people, and you have to have like really skilled play going through dungeons, going through like events, running around the world, like doing a variety of activities, doing PvP, doing all of these different things that bots, I feel in general, are do very poorly, right?
So
it's
is there
like,
sorry, but is there like a mechanic? Because I think in Diablo 3, a lot of people would do it for like the boring stuff, like farming greater rift keys. Mm-hmm. And just like put it on T6, something easy, blast a bunch of keys. That way you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, that's like the typical like barbarian bot that you see, right? Is they'll turn it on for 24 hours a day, and then it will just go and grab a bunch of greater rift keys in like T16, and then they'll spend all the keys like by actually playing them as a person. Yeah, there's nothing like that that I know of in this game where you're like disproportionately rewarded for doing botting activity for like one thing and then playing your character for the other thing.
Oh, that's good to hear. That reminds me, because I used to actually I was a content creator for Diablo 3, and I actually used to do videos policing the top players. And be like, I would go on their profile and like calculate their playtime, and it's like they're at 23.7 hours a day this season. They're definitely botting.
So like out here being the hall monitor.
Yep. So is there something like that in Diablo Immortal? Like, what information do you have when you go to like someone's profile?
You can see their gear. You can see their Paragon level. You can see all of their legendary gems. You can see all their normal gems.
See their skills? Can you copy their builds?
You can copy their build, yeah. I'm trying to think of what you can't see. So the things you can't see what their Legacy of Herodrum upgrades are. You can't. No,
What about like playtime?
You can't see playtime. In fact, there's no /played command in the game either, although that might be different now. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, very, very little. You can't see playtime. You can't see like a couple of the systems in the game. You can't see what those upgrades are, but you can see like pretty much everything on a character. So like, in other words, I think where the real discussion here is like, are you looking at a whale or not? Like, you could probably tell if somebody was whaling out just by looking at their character, like, pretty easily.
Cool. Thank you for answering that. I have another question, but I'll let someone else jump in or let you change the topic if someone wants to. I don't want to just talk the whole time.
Yeah, Brad, you've been talking way too much. I was going to say
dare
something,
you?
but
I'm a curious person. I have 100 questions.
Let's do it. Keep going for it, Chosen.
Cool. I see a lot of people asking about the battle pass. Do we know the actual price? Some people say it's $5. Some people say it's $5.99. Some people say it's $15. And like how good of like how mandatory is that? Like how amazing of a purchase or how meh of a purchase do you think that'll be?
Okay, yeah, this is a really good question. So, first of all, the Battle Pass is probably one of the core pieces of this game, right? A lot of the game really hinges on you wanting to do the Battle Pass, especially when you're leveling up. So important to do the Battle Pass. Rightfully so, the Battle Pass is amazingly awesome. It's so good. You're going to be on this Battle Pass screen like a lot. You're going to be looking at it a ton. It gives you a ton of XP and you turn stuff in. So super important as you're leveling. It gives you a ton of rewards that, especially rank 10 of the Battle Pass, super important. It gives you a legendary item. It will probably be the first legendary item you get in the game.
You get to pick one of 6,
important.
right?
You get to pick one of 6, and in the beta they were offhands. We don't know if they'll be offhands in launch, but it's probably going to be an offhand if I had to take a guess.
Okay.
Yeah, how much is it going to cost? So in the beta, there were 2 tiers of the Battle Pass. There was a $4.99 USD plus tax, right? So like, where I live, that's like a 10% tax.
Yeah, 5 something.
Yeah, so I'm paying like $5.50. Someone else who's like in a different place might pay $6 or might pay $5.20 or like whatever the tax is on that. Or there's also conversion values as well. So like if you're paying like some other currency to USD, like let's say you live in a different place in the world. By the way, this is also why like if you're in the EU, you might want to play on an EU server. Is like there's a conversion factor that happens when you convert currency. And
That's true.
You might not get as much value for your bang for your buck, right? So you might want to try to pay in USD if you can, this sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at about $5 USD per month if you pay in USD, right? So there's a lot of like ifs kind of like on that statement. If you're going by the beta price, if you're paying in USD, then it's about $5 USD. Now that unlocks the premium. What's it called?
There's only.
I don't actually know what it's called. So there's the free Battle Pass, and then there's a second track.
Empowered, right? Isn't it called the Empowered?
Empowered.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's what I was going to ask about.
There's a second track, right? And the second track will be locked if you haven't bought the $5 thing. So the $5 thing unlocks the second track. Now there's a third tier. And the third tier is it has a different name. I don't even know if they have a name for it in the beta, but it's
super premium.
It's called the tier
Plus
skip. And the tier skip, I don't like the tier skip personally, but what the tier skip does is it gives you 15 tiers of the Battle Pass, which basically like lets you skip doing a part of the Battle Pass, grinding it out. And that's $15 a month. Now, I think they might have changed this pretty significantly because now there's also cosmetics every month on the Battle Pass. And I think the cosmetics are on the tier skip one and not on the $5 one. So I think, but none of this is confirmed. So if you want like the monthly cosmetics, you might be doing that.
Can we talk about cosmetics for a moment? Because I feel like that's something I don't really understand. Now, I've seen the resonance, like the stronger your gyms go, the better your armor looks resonance thing, which I guess is applied to some stuff. But what I don't understand is whether or not it's all of the armor has that effect, or is it you have to buy a certain cosmetic outfit in the shop and then that outfit gets powered up based upon resonance? Or how is cosmetics and the way your hero actually look?
So
work?
We do have some sort of newer info here. But before I go into that, I want to thank Snuggy, friend of the stream. By the way, shout out to Snuggy here. Super, super amazing. Wait, whatever. My bot's not working. But yeah, thank you so much, Snuggy, for the support. Let's talk about cosmetics and sort of what we know from the beta and sort of like little screenshots and things that we've seen from leaked sources and other things since then, because a lot of this is newer information. So first of all, there is the cosmetics we saw in the beta were pretty basic, right? Like they weren't really implemented yet. So they were just kind of like testing the waters on the cosmetic system. They hadn't figured out what they wanted to do yet. So how that worked is we really just had two cosmetics in the game. You had the Resonance Cosmetics and you had the Immortal Cosmetics. So the Resonance Cosmetics, how that worked is you got any legendary gem to rank 10, even a 1-star legendary gem, got that to rank 10. And then what that lets you do is that allows you to use a special component called Dawning Echo, and that unlocks the awakening for the item, and it also unlocks the special appearance for that item. Right?
And every legendary item has one of these special appearances.
Every legendary item has a special appearance.
Wow, that's actually a lot. Okay.
And they all look different. Yeah. So that's the sort of the first system, and they hadn't really finished implementing it yet. So I can comment on that in just a bit because we do know a bit more info about it now. So then there's also the Immortal Cosmetics, and the Immortal Cosmetics are really badass. So there's two things going on with the Immortal Cosmetics. The first one is you get a cape, and you can in fact see my character here has like the Immortal cape, like the best one you can get.
There's different versions of the Immortal cape?
There is, yeah. So if you're just like entry level Immortal, you haven't really done anything, you don't have any standing in the Immortals, you get like a really basic cape. If you're a elite Immortal, then you get the cape gets some shoulder pads on it. If you're a lieutenant, like you're one of the
there you go, Darth, shoulder pads.
High tier Immortals, it's gonna start showing some wings out here. And then if you're the Immortal, then it's going to just have like all these like spikes and flowy things, and it's going to be crazy.
Got it.
Now, that's not the only Immortal Cosmetic. The real Immortal Cosmetic you have to really blast for. So if you get Silver 2, which is a pretty high Immortal rank, then you unlock a cosmetic for every single Immortal that turns everybody on the Immortals into a golden god. Like you guys might have seen this in a couple of clips here and there. Actually, let me see if I can find one real quick. But yeah, it turns every single class has their own like unique golden cosmetic. I know I have it. Like,
so they're really big with the flex,
available.
and they want everyone to know when someone's Immortal, basically.
Oh, they want you to flex hard. Oh, let's see. Pause this one over here. So yeah, this is what this one looks like. Got this one on the stream right here.
Oh, yeah,
you're flexing
Ooh,
real hard. You look like
shiny.
a golden god.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, crown and everything.
Looks amazing.
It's like the angel version of Tyrael.
But yeah, you're gonna fight. You're gonna have to fight really hard for that one to get that one going. Now, that was all we had in the beta. And literally, even the Golden God cosmetic, we got it, and it was like the tooltip was like not even finished yet. It was like the God Immortal Appearance Cosmetic Selector can equip when you do Ancient Road on character, and you're like, okay, this isn't done. So they were still kind of figuring it out. They're getting it into the game. They're working hard on it. So we know a few things now that we didn't know at the end of the beta. First thing that we know from squinting really hard at a lot of Chinese screenshots and a lot of Google Translate. Also, I speak Japanese, so I can read like Hangul and Hanzi and all this kind of stuff. So I was like looking at the characters and like, okay, I'm doing some translation here. So there is this new thing on the inventory now, this little yellow orb. And the yellow orb is like basically like your resonance power level, right? And what this is essentially now you have this ability to increase the progression of your cosmetic, right?
Okay.
We don't know precisely how this works, but we think it might be based on your legendary gem levels, right? So instead of like what was happening before in the beta is you would get a legendary gem to rank 10 and then you'd use the Dawning Echo and you'd unlock the appearance and then that was it. So now I think it's more like you equip your legendary gem and that gives you some like number of resonance power. And then if you hit a certain threshold of resonance power, then it enhances and it makes your thing look a little bit more badass. And there's like stages to it. So I think there's 4 stages now. So the more legendary gem levels you get, the more badass your character is going to look with this particular cosmetic progression. But that's not it, right? They also have a blog post out that talks about a cosmetic that you're going to get from the battle pass every month. And again, I think this is the like tier skip battle pass. It might not just be like the regular premium, but the ultra premium one. And this is like every month. And what I know from this, what I've seen in some screenshot that was given to me in like a back alley, like in a brown paper bag, is there's actually 3 cosmetic slots on your character. And so you have a cosmetic slot for your weapon, you have a cosmetic slot for your armor, and you have a cosmetic slot for your town portal. So like you might not know this, but between the alpha and the beta, in the alpha, if your character wants to go back to town, what happens is you stand there and the town portal opens and then you go back to town. And that's what happens. In the beta, every class has their own special animation for going back to town. So the barbarian grabs both of their blades and like rips open a portal in space time, and then they like jump through the portal. The crusader like throws their shield down and like summons the portal with like holy might. The demon hunter, I think, like shoots the air a couple times and does like a backflip or something. Like like I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I think the necromancer like summons his portal like he's summoning a skeleton or something, if I recall correctly.
Perfect.
But they all have this custom animation. And then what we got from this blog post was like, oh, wait a second. Now you can get a special cosmetic animation for this as well. So you're going to be rolling with your homies all the time in your warband, and they're going to see that you got the special, town portal animation, and it's going to look awesome. It's going to look sick, dude. It's maybe the best cosmetic, in my opinion. Maybe the best cosmetic is the town portal.
It kind of reminds me of, I play a lot of League of Legends, and every hero would have different teleports, basically, when they go back to base, but you could buy different skins, and the skins would also change their back-end animation, which was kind of always the same thing. They would always have, like, someone, if there was, like, a king, he would, like, summon the throne out of it. It was always something on their theme for going and back-end animation.
Very nice. Can I ask quickly about the PC client, because they worded it kind of weird? It's like a PC client beta. Like, are we going to be able to play the live game on release on PC, or is it like a separate beta test? Like, how does that work?
So, okay, there's kind of 2 ways of thinking of this, and you're saying the same thing when you're thinking of this. So, like, there's the perspective from the player, and there's the perspective from, like, the game developer, right? So let's talk about the player's perspective first. The player's perspective are these magical words, cross play and cross progression, right? Those are sort of the magical words to use. And the PC client has cross play and cross progression. So in other words, cross play means if I'm on the PC client, then someone who's on the mobile client, we're both playing together. Cross progression means if I'm on the PC client and I log off and I go on the mobile client, am I still playing the same character? Yes, you're playing the same character with the same stats. And the way they do this is everything's on Battle.net, right? So you have to have a Battle.net account to play this game, and everything gets synced up there. So another cool thing, by the way, about that feature is like, all your Battle.net friends are going to be they're going to already have you on their friends list when you when you fire up Diablo Immortal. You don't have to re-add everybody or do anything like that. And everyone playing Hearthstone is going to see the little DI icon on your battle.net. They're going to be like, this guy's jumped the ship. He's jumped the shark. He's playing that stupid mobile game. Why isn't he playing Hearthstone anymore? And then they're going to have to come play with you. So, so yeah, from the player's perspective, cross-play, cross-progression. Dread Scythe upgrading the cyber deck. Thank you so much, Dread. Dread, another amazing Maxwell content creator in the chat. Show him some love, you guys.
Oh yeah, what's up, Dread? I do get most of that. I mean, thank you for clarifying it. But like they called it a PC client beta when they tweeted out about it.
Yes.
So are you going to be able to play the live game on release on PC?
Yes,
Yeah.
You are going to be playing the live release. And this is where I get into sort of the developer's perspective here. So when you're making an MMO, you have multiple critical components of the game. The first critical component you have is the server that the game is running on, right? So the server that the game is running on is running the game's compute resources, and it's where all of the actual calculations of like damage and like where monsters are in the world, like what their coordinates are, and and what's spawning on the world, and like all this kind of stuff is happening, right? So what a client actually means is that we have you have your phone, and your client is connecting to that server, and your client is just trying to reproduce what's going on that server in a visual manner. The client is just like a dressing room for what's actually happening, right? The game is not actually happening on your phone. The game is actually happening on the server, and you're just connecting to that server. So what a client beta means is that the client itself, like the window dressing for the game, is in beta in the sense that maybe there's a visual bug. Maybe there's some sort of like controller thing that doesn't quite work correctly. Maybe you get into some interaction, because the game's made for mobile, right? Maybe you get into some interaction. Like there's this interaction where you have to like spin these wheels. And originally this was designed for your fingers, right? So you put 2 fingers on the screen and you do like this, and you raise this cage, It's just really fun. It's really cool, man. You never did this in any other Diablo game. It's actually really interactive. It's one of the coolest things. I love it. But doing that, how does that work with like a keyboard and a mouse? It's kind of weird, like maybe that will be slightly broken, like these sort of things. There's got to be all these little edge cases because the game is designed for mobile that won't quite work. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that when you have a mobile game, you're able to really target a bunch of devices, right? So when you walk into your QA department as a game developer, you can be like, here's a box, and you can pour the box out on the table, and you can have one of every device that you expect people to play the game on, and then you can test the game on all of those devices, and you can certify the devices because, a Samsung Galaxy S21 is a Samsung Galaxy S21. There's not really much difference between having like a bigger, hard disk or SSD on one than the other, right? They're basically the same hardware. But on a PC, you end up with this crazy Excel spreadsheet combinatoric equation of, okay, you got this motherboard with this graphics card, with this game driver on this version of this game driver running this operating system that's on this patch of this operating system, using this sound device, using, all this kind of stuff. And so the like amount of things that can go wrong just explodes in terms of complexity. So I think that's why they're calling this, like from a development perspective, that's why they're calling this a PC client beta, because there's no way they can predict what you have in your custom built PC,
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for the clarification.
I am in getting prepared for Diablo Immortal. I've been playing Diablo 2. And
you're playing Resurrected right now?
Yeah, messing around. Here's the thing about it. You might not believe me, but never played Diablo 2, never watched it, and know nothing about it. So I don't know. I made it to Act 2, and I'm playing hardcore, and every time I die, I have to start over, and I'm the farthest I've made it so far, which is level 18. I'm playing Necromancer, so I just got like this huge army of dudes running around. It's kind of actually a pretty fun game, but I keep dying, and then I have to start over again.
D2R hardcore is really brutal, man. There are some mechanics in D2. You're not even to the hard ones yet, Darth. There's some mechanics in Act 4 and Act 5 that are actually bugged that will just instantly kill you no matter what you do, even if you're the most powerful character in the game. So you kind of just have to know what you're doing. It's really tough.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that then. I'm in Act 2.
And it's not like Diablo 3 where you have like a cheat death proc, so it's just brutal.
Well, now I'm starting to regret my decision.
Yeah, I mean, Diablo 2 is even more brutal than that because even on softcore, after a certain level, you start losing experience when you die, and you lose your gold too. Like it's a very old school style game where the idea was like, oh, you died, it's time to punish you because you suck.
I've always thought that would be the way of the future, is trying to like bridge softcore and hardcore players into one player base and just make it like kind of punishing, like, so you don't want to die. So all players are kind of playing the same game mode. And one of the best ideas I think I thought of kind of in my head, in my opinion, maybe other people think it's stupid, was like the longer you're alive, the more like XP you're getting. So like but have it max out, like once you're alive for 10 hours, you're capped. But then if you die, you go back to like the base level of XP. So nobody would want to die, but you wouldn't like lose gear.
This game has Immortal has a couple of those things in it. So the first thing it has is something called the Resurrection Stone. So when you die, you can just resurrect yourself right at your corpse, but you can only do that up to 3 times. And you have this stone that recharges very slowly, like extremely slowly, when you kill enemies or do some other things in the game. And so over time, it will recharge. But if you use up all of the charges, when you die, you're going all the way back to town, and it's a big pain in the butt. So there's a little bit of that going on. Also, this is really consequential during things like raids and so on, because what they'll do is they'll limit your Resurrection Stone. They'll say, okay, you're in a raid, you get 1 charge on the Resurrection Stone, and then if you die twice, you're out of the raid. Right, there's no way. There's no like combat res druid for you. Like you're just gone. You're just dead. You know.
So your allies can't like resurrect you.
Oh, actually they can, but it's really hard to do. So yeah, we did this a lot during Heliquary raids. There's so much stuff on the screen a lot of times during these raids that when you're rezzing someone, if they're in an unfortunate location where they died, you're never resurrecting that person just because the boss is going to hit you every single time.
Oh, because you have to be like, you have to be like uninterrupted.
You have to be completely uninterrupted to res your allies. Yeah. Now, if they died like all the way on the edge of the screen and they're kind of in a safe location, you might be able to get them back up. Yeah. But like where this is really consequential is the raids have these party-wide wipes in them. So like there'll be a raid mechanic. And then if nobody knows about the raid mechanic, then everyone will die. And you can't resurrect everyone if everyone is dead. So sometimes you have to be skilled in this game or
how long are we talking on a Resurrection Stone charge? Like 1 hour or like 1 day?
Like 24 hours of grinding? No.
Or yeah, you said it recharges slow, but I don't know if that means like 1 hour, 8 hours.
Like if you're killing mobs for like 30 minutes straight, I think you get like 1 charge, something like that. It's fairly slow.
Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah. So it's not like you can go kill 2 packs of mobs and it just, refreshes all the way or something like that. It does take a while for you to fill it back up. The other thing that looks really cool about this is the roguelike game mode that I alluded to, and the underhanded back alley paper bag kind of data mine.
Data mine, yeah.
And that looks like this procedurally generated roguelike mode where based on what I've read, this is what it sounds like. It sounds like you enter with 4 people, right? Like it's a 4-player required thing. But then one person is fighting at a time. So one person is fighting and they're earning stuff. And then once they die, the next person is fighting and then they earn stuff and that sort of thing. So you actually are like rooting for your teammates and that's and that sort of thing until you're all dead. So it's kind of like a baton race, I guess. I don't know. It's all data mine stuff. We don't know anything.
Elimination mode type of thing. I always like those.
It
where
sounds
you get
really
to watch
cool.
your buddies
It sounds
and
really
see how
cool.
they're doing. Always encourages you to like do better. You know.
Do you guys have any other questions for today? Try to answer anything you guys have.
I've asked a lot of them, so I'll lean to Cobrew and Brad to ask away if they got.
I've definitely hogged the mic, so I want to let Cold Brew get in here. If you had anything that was burning you up, Cold Brew.
Well, I'm having.
Cold Brew is like
what is disappointing with the Crusader is that you mentioned in one of your videos that the Crusader actually loses loot because he has to jump in first.
Yep.
And because you're rushing through, you basically lose some of the crafting loot. I think you mentioned is what you mentioned in the video.
Yeah, so more or less what's going on when you're grinding dungeons, more or less like when I described earlier in the Mad King dungeon, the Crusaders are just going to push forward all the way down that hallway, right? And so there's like 30, 40, 50 mobs behind you, and you're not going back to pick up that loot. You're trying to kill the boss as fast as possible so you can keep going, right? And so your job as a Crusader is to get ahead of the party, group everything up, and just and be the scout, right? So all that stuff that drops on the ground, you're not going to pick it up. There's no way. You're in too much of a rush. So one of the benefits of being sort of like the cleanup crew as the Demon Hunter or as the Necromancer and running around with like your minions or just like your sentries and killing everything is you're also able to kind of like pick up the loot as you go. And so as a result, you end up with a little bit more loot per hour.
Can you do anything to help, like share as a warband to mitigate any of that? Or
I guess in theory, based on the data mine, there's the warband like drops that you could get. But yeah, more or less like that's the trade-off you're making as a Crusader. Now, on the other hand, you are probably still getting all of the XP. So that's probably not too big of a problem. And the other trade-off of being Crusader is you are not the primary DPS in the party. You really are trying to make your party members shine. You get a lot of really great abilities to do that. But if you ain't about that, like if you're the kind of person who wants to be like the mage, the rogue in the party that's primary DPS, then I don't know if in group play Crusader really leans as strong that way. I mean, you're still doing damage, but that's not like your main job, so to speak.
Now builds, like there's solo builds that you can do. Like if you just want to play on your own and you don't have anybody to team out at a time, let's say, you can just go and farm with a specific build.
You can 100%.
And is there a way to switch out builds like quickly? Let's say I've got a support build and a solo build. Is that like
Not yet. So if you want to swap a build out, you can still kind of do it very quickly at the essence transfer vendor and on the skill screen. So you go back to West March, you talk to the essence transfer vendor, you go, okay, this one, you pop all your new ones in, and then you go to your skills and you pop in the next couple of skills you need to swap it out, and then your new build's ready to go, right? It doesn't take you very long to do that. But I think eventually they're going to get some kind of wardrobe system in the game. Definitely not at launch, but like I think a wardrobe system would have to include something like the essences, the skills, your active Paragon tree, maybe like your legendary gems and your normal gems, and like kind of just swap all of that out with like one button.
That would
Like,
be nice,
eventually-
like presets.
Eventually, but I don't think we'll have that for day 0 of the game. No way.
Yeah, like the armory or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know what they're gonna call it, but
Yeah, I just bet that's what it was in Diablo 3, where you could like swap your build instantly.
yeah, they'll have some. They'll have something like that. I think eventually.
But before we move on from Seder, there was a quick thing I never, or kind of confused me. It sounds like you think Crusader, in your opinion, is pretty vital to a group, or at least very strong. But you had mentioned if you have a Necromancer, you shouldn't maybe use a Crusader. Could you like elaborate on that at all?
I guess what I'm getting in there is getting really deep into the beta meta, which again may or may not be correct at release. And in the beta meta, the build that we have up right now on immortal.maxwell.gg is this build that I call Holy Fire. And what that does is that gives all of your teammates that are within a certain radius of you a buff that gives them a melee damage over time buff to any enemies that are next to them. So what happens is if you are a Crusader in a party of 3 ranged characters, then your primary DPS thing that you're doing as a support doesn't really pop off correctly. So that's probably why I would lean against having a 4-player party, like grinding dungeons with both a Crusader and a Necromancer. I'd pick one of those two, maybe, because they kind of fill similar-ish roles. And if you're playing Necromancer and you don't have a Crusader in the party, you might throw on what's the movement ability? Blood Rush, whatever it's called. I keep forgetting what it's called in Immortal.
For the Necromancer?
It's Wraith form.
Wraith form. You might throw Wraith form on to pick up that extra mobility so you can be ahead of the party and be doing more scouting and that sort of thing. And then you fill in with all of your like golems and things like that. So
But what would be wrong with like Crusader, Barbarian, Necro DH?
I think that might work. Yeah. Especially like a Barbarian. But you might want to avoid like Crusader, Necro, Wizard, DH. That might be.
Yeah.
Or two DH, Crusader, Necro. Like that sort of comp, you might want to avoid that comp.
Yeah, it's just your kind of main point is that if you are running a Crusader, they're going to shine a lot more if they have at least one melee companion like a monk or a barb.
Yeah. And to be fair, even the ranged DPS, that buff is still useful on the ranged DPS. It's just not quite as useful as like a Barbarian who's whirlwinding in the face of the boss, who 100% of the DPS of the buff is hitting the boss all of the time, right? It's a lot more useful when you have that.
Are there any other synergies that are kind of anti-helpful to each other, like similar to the Crusader and the Necro? Are there any like you don't want a Wizard and a DH? Like, is there anything else like that?
The biggest one is you don't want to have like a party of 4 of the same class. You might be able to swing 2 of the same class, but 3 of the same class also I definitely avoid. And the reason for that is every class tends to have a buff that does some additional damage, that mitigates damage for the crew, like all this kind of stuff, right? And every class tends to have some little buff. And when you're in your group build, you're going to equip that buff pretty much no matter what. And if you have if you have the same classes, that buff doesn't stack. Nicely done. Right. So you're missing out. If you have 3 barbarians in the party and 1 crusader, that's 2 slots of buffs that you're kind of missing on the party.
Yeah, I for sure can see that. And then my last question on this one, and then we can move on or whatever if you want, is with Necromancer being an extremely popular class, probably like the 2nd or 3rd most popular class, what would be the best party to structure around that?
I don't know, because the meta for launch is gonna instantly shift. Like, we're gonna be live streaming it here, and I'll tell you, like, in the first 10 hours of the game, there's gonna be a new meta. So
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I can tell you what I think it might be based on like a lot of pre-game theory crafting, but I have to throw a lot of like shade on this technique.
Well, the goal here is to get you on paper about something so I can make a video later on if you're wrong and correct it.
Of course, yes. So
the
first thing I'll say is that we have a saying in the Diablo community that comes from SVR. Shout outs to SVR. Don't theory craft before patch notes. And this comes from SVR, who I think it was back in like season 18 or something. He did like 300 hours of theory crafting about some new witch doctor build, and had spreadsheets on spreadsheets, and then they changed it and nerfed it, and then it changed everything. And he was like, "No!"
Yeah.
So theory crafting, don't let that be a word of warning, right? Like, don't go spend 200 hours thinking about this theory crafting. But if I had to put a group together, and it was the best group ever, what I would do is I would do one Crusader, I would do maybe one Necromancer, one Demon Hunter, and one Barbarian. That's probably what I would pick.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
The Necromancer is just so good for their ability to clear like everything on the screen with their minions, and for some of their support skills, especially if you're a hardcore blaster. Some of their support skills make your group survive longer, and when you're playing the harder content, you're gonna just die if you don't have that stuff. So Necro is perfect for that. And then Demon Hunter has the incredible single target damage, and one of your bottlenecks for doing content really quickly is single target damage in this game. You need single target damage. So whether you're running a Demon Hunter or a Demon Hunter and a Wizard, or a Wizard, like, you want the single target DPS. You want the wombo combos of like, okay, I threw down the Firestorm, and I threw down the Vengeance, and then I threw down the Arcane Wind, and that's 50% damage to this, and blah 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 blah. You want all of that stuff for the single target DPS for the bosses. The Crusader, you want them for all of their support stuff, all of their buffs. They have the banner that auto crits everything. They have Conjuration of Light, which does sort of like the Holy Fire thing I described a little earlier. And then the Barbarian has Whirlwind, which Whirlwind in this game can do a lot of different things, right? In group content, there's something called the Gathering, and I think the Gathering is maybe the most powerful legendary in the entire game. That's my take. I also played a lot of Barbarian in the alpha, so I got some Barbarian under my belt. But I think the Gathering is so good. What it does is when you Whirlwind, anything you damage with Whirlwind gets pixeled on top of you, right? Ooh. So it groups everything you Whirlwind on.
It does.
Which anybody who knows about pixeling with Barb in D3 knows how like amazing that is. So you just run around and you like sprint to a location. You're like, okay, everything is gonna come in here, and then you like pixel it all with Whirlwind, and then the rest of the party comes in. The Crusader drops their crazy AoE stuff. Demon Hunter drops some of their like little tiny AoEs, and they're kind of maybe target firing some of the bigger stuff. And then the Necromancer comes in, drops the Golem, drops the Skeletal Mage, and everything just dies, right? It's amazing. It's amazing. It's a really great group composition. Oh, also the Barbarian has like another damage buff. I think it's like some legendary on Demoralize. I can't quite remember off the top of my head what it's called. But that's also really helpful too. So you like when you get that group comp together, and there's a couple other really good group comps, but when you get, you could even see Rob on the screen doing the Gathering right now. When you get that group comp together, it just slaps, man. There's no stopping it.
You find yourself not using Wizard too much in your parties?
Wizard is less popular of a class, just like Monk, right? But when you do have a Wizard in the party, you notice, because they do more than anybody else in the game. they can drop very frequent meteors on the ground, and they can make little fiery patches on the ground. And what that does is you can combo spells on top of it, and then you'll see this little thing pop up that says Firestorm, Firestorm, Firestorm. And at first you might be like, okay, what the heck is going on here? What's Firestorm? So what that is that's a combo of two of your spells, like your spell and the like fiery ground, and it does 50% more damage, and it's incredible. So when you're playing by yourself as a wizard, you're really doing a lot of these firestorms to do increased damage, and that might be the reason why it's like the best challenge rift clearer in the game. But when you're in a group, you're setting these combos up for your group. So right, like if you have a wizard in the party, let's say you like swapped wizard out for like necromancer, right, in that party, then what happens is you run into a room, barbarian groups everything up with the gathering, the crusader comes in, drops the consecration, drops the banner, the demon hunter starts laying down all their single target damage, and then the wizard is gonna just make everything pop off. They're gonna drop a meteor, and then all that damage you're gonna do, boom, 50% more damage. It's just gonna blow everything up, and the combo's gonna happen. You're gonna get the little wombo combo. If you've ever seen like a good Dota wombo combo, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
Okay,
the good old Zarya Hanzo dragon.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Cool, thanks. That was kind of my quick questions I wanted clarified here for a group, and that all makes sense.
Cold Brew is like just taking it all in. What else do you got for us, Cold Brew?
He's absorbing
other questions.
About the Crusader or just in general?
Whatever you want to know, man.
Life in general, dude. You can ask him about his life, whether you forget.
I meant about the game. So do you think the game will change on launch since last time you played on beta?
So much. Let me.
Do you know all of the changes? Like,
let me color this a little bit for you. So we know some changes from like things they've confirmed in blog posts, data mines, screenshot given to me in a back alley, right? Like we know about this kind of stuff. Long shot, thank you for the 100 biddies. Thanks for the support. So let me color this for you. So there's been 3 test cycles for this game. This game has had so much testing. We've basically played, or at least we think we've played the whole game. But every test cycle, here's what's happened. We go into the test cycle. We do tech alpha. We walk into tech alpha. What's the end game? We're doing challenge rifts. We're grinding challenge rifts. You know, me and Fluffy, we're competing for highest challenge rift level. I believe that Leviathan actually got the highest challenge rift level in tech alpha. He was absolutely blasting the tech alpha. And then we go to closed alpha from tech alpha. And closed alpha, it's a whole nother expansion, man. It's a whole nother expansion. Now we're looking at a whole different end game. We're looking at the cycle of strife, Shadows Immortals. We're grinding that, and like challenge rifts is now just like a little side activity. But it's like the same activity. In fact, it's even better. They improved it. So it's a whole expansion, right? Then we go to closed beta. And in closed beta, they add a whole bunch of other new systems. They add the Legacy of Herodrum, a whole bunch of other stuff. And they tweaked a whole bunch of other stuff that made everything like way better, added the controller support. And it's again, like it feels like a whole another expansion to the game from closed alpha to closed beta. So if you played closed alpha and your brain is still, and you didn't play closed beta, you didn't grind closed beta, your brain is still in closed alpha metas, and like you're behind, right? You actually don't know what you're talking about anymore. And the same thing is going to happen, right? So like if you go from closed beta to launch, it's going to be like a whole nother expansion happened. There's a whole new zone. There's new events in that zone. There's the end of the story. Like we're gonna fight Diablo. We haven't fought Diablo yet. They're retooling the cycle of strife. So now there's like dark clans instead of dark houses. Now there's these immortal clans and factions. There's the whole new cosmetic system. There's maybe some of this stuff that's in a data mine that's like a chaos rift, or like there's this thing called like the Immortal Expedition, whatever that is. There's the Warbands stuff. It's like they added a whole nother expansion to the game now. So if you're a beta player and you are at the top of the beta, you are going to have an advantage by kind of knowing some of the beta systems and that sort of thing and having a good feel for the game. But if your brain is stuck in beta metas and you can't break yourself out of that, you're going to get left behind, because the launch metas are going to be completely different.
So we have a massive advantage only playing at launch. You say we're really the most intelligent ones out of all of them, because we have none of the bad info.
It's true. It's kind of true, because you're, at least in terms of like determining metas, you're gonna like approach it with a fresh mind, and you're gonna say, "Oh, wait a second, I don't have to do this. Why am I even? Why are you guys doing this thing? This is stupid. I don't want to do this thing. Look at this thing over here. You should be doing this thing." So you're like, we don't know. For example, we kind of have an idea of what all the best dungeons are in the game. But there's a brand new dungeon that we've never played. Maybe that's actually the best dungeon. We kind of have an idea of like what the best. Also, they could just rebalance all of them, and then your knowledge is actually completely useless, right? And in fact, your previous knowledge about the dungeons might be an inhibitor to you picking up like what the best dungeon to run is in the launch of the game. So I do think people who played the beta. Yes. I do think people in the beta have a pretty good advantage, because they know how the systems work, more or less. And so some of the core systems are not going to change. But in terms of the meta, it's going to be very different. Like the builds are going to change overnight. The comps, like the comp I just gave you, yeah, there'll be a better comp. There'll be better stuff to do.
Well, I'm hyped for the game's release. Soon enough. One more day's down, boys. One more day's down.
Taking them away.
DM. How many days, DM? 17 days?
18?
You have like, how many sleeps
17?
until, like they say, 15 sleeps until Christmas?
Something like that.
Yeah, the same thing for the
For
launch.
Darth, it's like 7 sleeps.
Alaska is still on the exact same planet as your planet, so our time works the same.
I wanted to ask before, we were talking about the battle pass, that there's the basic one, which is for free, right?
Yes.
And there's the same quest as the paid versions. It's just you don't get the double or triple rewards, I would guess.
They're not the same.
Right?
That's a good clarification. So the paid track of the battle pass in the beta had slightly different stuff. Sometimes it was a duplicate, right? So like the tier 1, you got Fervent Fang, which is a 2-star legendary gem. And if you bought the battle pass, you got another Fervent Fang, right? So some of them are mirrored on both. But I think the paid battle pass has a lot more scoria. And do you guys remember what scoria does at all? Not I can.
Isn't scoria like part of the contributions?
That's Essentia, but yes, there's a lot of currencies in this game. So there's so scoria. What this is you get this from I guess 2 sources. One is your daily activity reward, which is like right at the top of your codex when you open that up. So I think you get 1 a day from that. And then you get some from the battle pass. You get in the free track. And then on the paid track has a lot more scoria. And what scoria lets you do is you take it to Charcy in Westmarch. She can turn it into Hellfire scoria. So I assume in the future there'll be other kinds of scoria you can craft it into. And what that does is you can go into the Heliquary. You can slot your scoria into the Heliquary. You can upgrade your Heliquary. And then the Heliquary lets you do new Heliquary bosses. So, for example, there's Lassel as I think the first boss, and Lassel, I think you had to have the Heliquary level 10 or level 6, I can't remember. And then there's Vitoth. Vitoth is the second Heliquary boss, and I think you had to have the Heliquary level 20. So like you can't even zone in unless you have the correct telequery level. And then I assume like every month or so in the future, they'll have like new heliquery bosses, new things to do on that track. Oh, and the other thing that's different from the beta here that we know about, this is confirmed, this isn't like back alley information, is that there's going to be ranks of the heliquery bosses now as well. So you do Lassel, and you're doing rank 1 Lassel, let's say at 1300 CR. And then you unlock rank 2 Lassel, and that's like 1400 CR or 1500 CR or something. You do rank 2 Lassel, then you unlock rank 3 Lassel, and so on and so forth. I think there's 5 ranks of each boss. I can't remember off the top of my head how many ranks there were, but you're going to do multiple ranks of each boss, and so you get rewarded for doing higher ranks, right? So you get more rewards for doing the higher heliquery bosses.
So why I asked that was basically because I wanted to know, okay, do the free-to-play players who have, they have access to the battle pass, the top part. You mentioned something about experience. Is that experience for the battle pass levels or experience for your class?
Yes.
Like,
so your character has an XP bar at the bottom of the screen,
right?
And if the XP bar fills up, you level up, right? So
yeah.
If you turn in a tier of the battle pass, whether it's the free tier or the paid tier, it doesn't matter. You get a certain amount of XP, and it's a lot. It's a lot of XP. So having the paid tier of the battle pass doesn't give you more XP. The other thing to know is there's the skip tier. There's like the second, the premium battle pass, the premium battle pass, so to speak. When you skip tiers, those tiers don't offer any experience points at all. They just give you the rewards. So you get 0 XP for turning those tiers in, but you'll get like the Scoria and stuff.
What about if when you buy each tier individually with like the 150 Eternal Orbs?
Also, you don't get XP for that.
Got it.
Now, at the very end of the track of the battle pass, there's sort of an infinite stage where you get some salvage materials. You still get XP, right? So let's say you're like whaling the battle pass, like Mr. Snuggles in the chat, right?
Okay.
I didn't forget Snuggie. Snuggie, by the way, shout outs to Snuggie. He's the one who actually discovered this. So, if you whale the battle pass tier and you upgrade it with Eternal Orbs and the skip tier and like all this kind of stuff, then what happens at the end is that you're just getting more salvage materials from upgrading it through XP. And so when you normally upgrade it and you earn it, you still earn the same amount of XP. So you're not like, it's not, in other words, it's not a whale trap, right? You're not like losing out as a whale, but also you can't just be like, okay, I'm level 15, let me swipe the credit card and I'm level 30. You can't do that.
Right.
Got it.
Darth Micro has left the chat.
You guys told me this game would have microtransactions.
Yeah, if I can't take a business loan for this game, then I'm really not interested.
Yeah, what's the point?
I'm gonna rename my channel.
Darth mini transaction.
Yep.
Almost transaction.
Darth macro transaction.
There it is. That'll be the 2.0.
There it is. Cold Brew, what other burning questions do you have?
I can hear him, and Cold Brew over there is just barely containing himself. He's got questions coming out of his ears. He just can't wait. Here they come, quick fire. Here they go, Cold Brew.
PvP, yep. PvP. How quickly can you do PvP? Day one?
I mean, if you're really blasting, you can do PvP day one. Yeah, I think. Let's say day one of the game. Day 0 of the game. You start. Yeah. Let's say the server goes live at midnight, and at midnight and 2 seconds, you're logged in. Your Battle.net account's already created. Friends list already filled out. Warband already planned out. Excel spreadsheets, you have 100 of them, right? You're ready to go, okay? In 8 hours, you're doing PvP. That's
Okay.
what I think. So 8 a.m. on that, after that,
Not bad.
Assuming the servers don't go down, it is an MMO launch, guys. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
assuming servers don't go down and things like that.
Yeah, it never goes according. Like, I mean, look back at New World and how no one could
Yeah,
get in for 7 hours, and yeah.
As long as it's not the EU servers that go down, I don't care. It's
Come
like
on, don't
the NA
jinx
can
it,
go down
guys.
for a
What are
couple
you
of days.
doing? Now obviously it's fucked. Y'all had to.
We don't know the time,
what is
right?
the last like hugely hyped launch that like
Lost Ark.
went? Oh yeah, I guess Lost Ark, kind of, yeah.
But actually, their launch went really good. I
No, they
still
did
had
have some issues
problems.
with the game.
Yeah.
With the update, I think they had some FPS, I think, and lag.
By the way, do we know the time of day that Blizzard
We
is
don't.
gonna launch
Yeah.
Diablo Immortal?
No idea. In fact, we have like anti-information on that. And Wyatt said something in like a Discord message, in like sort of a little Discord FAQ, that they said they don't know when like the Diablo Immortal client is going to like hit Apple and Google's CDNs. So we don't have like a precise launch hour or time, at least not yet. So I don't know. I think this will change in the next week or two before launch, but my current thinking is that if you want to play at time 0, you're going to have to be on the PC client, and you're going to install the PC client, and then like an hour or two later you can play on mobile, maybe. I don't know. That's a guess.
Yeah, the PC client's going to be preloaded, right? That's what they usually do.
Yeah, so you
I
might
hope
be
they
able
don't
to
do what they
play.
did with Diablo 3 and release it at midnight, so I have to stay up till 10 a.m.
I think it was midnight my time as well.
Well, I think it
On
was
Diablo
based on your
2.
server because they did a midnight. I remember like me and my friends staying up for the midnight release, and then we couldn't even play till 6 a.m. And then we played for like a few hours and finally died at like 10 or 11 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah, so for Diablo 3, the launch time doesn't really matter because there's nothing in the game per se that's like tied to time, right? This game is entirely different. This game, there's a weekly reset. There are like events that happen in the game. There's like timetables
Things
for
happen.
Shadows and Immortals and things to happen, right? So I think if it's the same as the beta, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a global launch, right? Like they're going to flip the switch and the servers are going to be live everywhere all at the same time. That's what I think is going
If
to
I
happen.
just spent 4 years getting screwed over on time zones on Raid Shadow Legends, and then they launch this game at 4 a.m., I'm gonna be so upset.
Dude, I remember the Diablo 3 launch. I was at the library studying. I was a student back then at university, and it was like 2 a.m. Something like that, something crazy. And I saw that the game actually launched. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done for today. I got out and went home to play the game.
Yep.
I remember it very vividly.
Yeah, we had my friends, they brought their computers over. We were drinking in the Best Buy parking lot at like 10 p.m. waiting for them to open the doors. It was pretty wild.
Oh, you got the like a copy, like a proper physical copy.
Like it's one of the last things I bought, like a hard box copy of, to like, instead of a digital, like, and I actually went home and put it in the CD drive.
I think it was the first one for me. I like that was digital. I wasn't very used to it because even WoW, when I bought it, a Blizzard game, it was physical, and you could even buy the physical monthly game time, right? If I remember correctly. I think I remember correctly. That's how it was.
That's a good point. There's no physical release for this game. Oh my god.
It was something like this, Cold Brew.
Still sealed. Look at that.
This is my sealed Diablo 3 Collector's Edition. It's going to be worth $5,000 someday.
You know, you have to open it to play, right?
Oh, but not this. This is a relic. Why would I open it?
I don't know why you kept it there.
There's no box version for Immortal, which is interesting. It's digital only and it's free to play. So even if you wanted like Lost Ark is free to play, but at launch they had all of these different like bundles that you could pre-buy on Steam, and you could like get early access for like the first 3 days. DM, you're on mute, by the way. You could like get pre-access for like the first 3 days, and you can get like a cat and a horse and like all this stuff.
Oh yeah, I bought the hell out of those packs, baby. Those things were absolutely
why
excellent.
didn't they do like a box version collectible for Diablo Immortal? They would have probably made a lot of money. I mean, 50 million pre-registers. You got to think like 500,000 people would have bought it. That's a big revenue source.
Yeah, they don't have anything like that for this game.
I would have thought they would have one that comes with like an action figure. They would have made millions of dollars off of it.
An action figure was this the 90s?
Well, you know what I mean. I'm just
people.
talking about like how they have like random stuff in there.
No, you're right. An action figure would have sold it. You know what? I would have bought an action figure. Now that I think about it, I put that on my shelf and feel good about
Imagine
it.
if you could like pick your class and it comes like a little necro. You would have definitely bought it.
Oh, hell yeah, I would have bought that. That would have been fucking fire. Would it go on my shelf and I'd look at it and later on to be like, why did I buy this thing?
Question that came in from the chat that I'll try to answer really quickly here. Can F2P only get max 2-star legendary gems? Okay, so let me like sort of clarify that, and then there's another question I'll answer. So what you're actually saying there is we have, again, like a back alley given to us in a brown paper bag from some shady guy data mine that says that rare crests can only drop up to 2-star gems, and legendary crests can drop the 5-star gems as well. And what that means is that effectively the best gems in the game can only be gotten from legendary gems. But all gems can be turned into gem power, which you can level up any gem with. So if you're like a free-to-play player and you're lucky enough to get a 5-star gem, either by like buying it off of like the marketplace with some of your saved up platinum from your daily activity quest, or you got one in a drop from a legendary gem, then you can use the 1 and 2-star gems and you can break them down into gem power, and you can upgrade that level 5, that 5-star gem with that gem power, right? So like even the rare crests still have a lot of value for a free-to-play player. They're never like, well, I never use these. This is stupid. Like you're gonna be using those all the time. And then the second question was, do you think Raxantarax and his group will be one of the first to reach max level in the game? Well, considering Raxantarax is in my group, yes. So our group is Rax, myself, Dread, and Rob. And if I'm thinking about like who's going to be carrying the group the most, it's Rob. He's like the #1 craziest blaster that I've ever met. He's a wild man. In fact, shout outs to Rob because he was blasting the Max Roll site last night to get that thing live. So like, guys, the game's not even live yet, and we're already blasting. Like, oh man. It's a lifestyle, I guess, for Rob.
Well, I'm excited for the game launch. I just want to start playing it, man. Didn't get a chance to play in any of the betas or alphas or anything, so I just want to play the game at this point.
I think we're all in the same boat.
Can you get legendary crests from hilts? You have a limited number of legendary crests, which I think is 1 in the beta. They might have changed that you can buy from hilts, which you can earn for free. Yes. Is Rax playing Barb? Rax is playing Demon Hunter.
I actually, somebody asked if Llama. I actually messaged Llama last night to see if he was going to play Immortal, but he hasn't responded to me yet.
Yeah, I know. There's no way, right?
I doubt it. He's absolutely popping off on Diablo 2. So like,
Yeah.
he'll probably try it, but I doubt he'll be playing Diablo Immortal.
If he's playing Immortal, he's gonna do what Rob did during the beta, and he's gonna be playing Diablo 2 over here. And in between load screens, he'll have Immortal like on his phone, like in his lap here. And you'll see him like looking down on stream, and you're like, what's he doing?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll do like a fun little stream where he tries it, but there's no way he's gonna go like hard in the paint. I wouldn't think.
Is Rob the resident Barb expert? I think Rob, along with a couple of other players in the beta, like we had Gaz in here a little earlier, and I'm forgetting some names right now, but yeah, Rob is definitely a Barb expert. Cold Brew, what else could I help you with, man? What can I tell you? What can I tell you?
Yeah, Cobra, come on, bro. You're not. I mean, we need these questions, Cobra. You're the man.
Why is it just me with the questions?
It's always you,
I asked
Cobra.
like 85. I feel bad, but
Because I wanna like pick your brain.
My brain?
Yeah, because you're a unique individual.
This is an intervention, Cobra.
I'm another Crusader expert wannabe. That's what I want to be. Like you posting all the Crusader videos. No, I'm really thinking about the Crusader and if it's the right call for me, like the kind of playstyle that I want to do. That's what I used to play on D3. That's why I want to try it out on Diablo Immortal. But if they had Witch Doctor, I would have gone Witch Doctor.
D3 Crusader is not this Crusader. They are not the same class. The D3 Crusader is, I'm going to move on my horse, and I only use my horse to move. And then I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to shotgun attack or like, spinning shield or whatever it is. And I'm going to shotgun or spinning shield or whatever, a bunch of mobs. And I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be super OP, and I'm going to just stand in place and do that. And then I'm gonna get on my horse.
Right.
That's that Crusader. And to be honest with you, I was a season 1. Was it season 1? Whatever the first season that had Crusader was in it. I was a season 1 Crusader player. I played a lot of Crusader. I think Crusader's maybe one of the least fun Diablo 3 classes. Hence, like I think a lot of people who play a lot of Diablo 3 will tell you Crusader's not fun to play, man. It's so annoying to play. So this game, totally different vibe. You got a horse that when you ride on it, you are doing all of your damage on that horse. So like before you mount up on your horse, before you hit the cooldown, you're gonna hit like 3 other cooldowns, and you're gonna get your consecration up, you're gonna get your shields up, you're gonna do all that kind of stuff. Then you're gonna hit your horse, and all that stuff, all that AOE damage is just gonna move with you instead of staying on one place on the screen, right? And then your primary attack actually changes when you're on the horse. It changes entirely to be the horse. So you're like swinging your sword like a wild man. You're like cutting through everything. You're moving your horse in a big circle, and you're just like attacking everything. And when you're doing that, your primary attacks also proc. So this is an important thing we haven't actually talked about. Primary attacks are really important in this game. They can trigger an ultimate, which you charge up over time. And then there's a ton of secondary effects that are on your gear, that are on your family bonuses that you upgrade to, that trigger off of primary attacks, right? So that primary attack you have on the horse, it counts as a real primary attack. It's not just like an extra little bonus you get on the horse. So you're doing primary attacks, and you're triggering all those other things that are going on. And then the horse ends, and you're sad for like 6 seconds before you mount up on the horse again.
So it's basically all about the horse.
I still think I would like the playstyle as you explained it for Crusader. Because I was playing mostly Witch Doctor, then I switched to Crusader because I was bored of it. And because like every season you had, different builds that would be the meta builds. And I like different classes. I try them all in D3. But yeah, that's it's Crusader that made it the most interesting. Like, I'm not interested in Wizard or Necro or Demon Hunter, like the range classes. Monk, it's okay, but nobody seems to be hyped about Monk for some reason. I think they'll be the number one class that gets changed or buffed or something interesting happens there.
Monk's
It's 'cause
Monk's
people-
abilities seem insane when you actually look at them.
Where's this clip? Hold on, I got a clip. I'm gonna pull
Let me
a
see the
clip
clip.
on the stream. Hold on, I have a
Bad.
whole bunch of clips. Where are these? Where are they?
Dart, it's not too late to change it up to Monk.
You know
Are
what?
you too-
It is too late.
too
I'm
invested
too
into-
deep.
Like
I'm too deep.
Like, how is Inner Sank not great for like Riffs? Because the hardest part is the boss. How is Inner Sank not like meta?
The teleportation.
I don't know where this. I don't know where. Oh wait. I do know where this clip is. Here it is. Monk. Boom.
We're hard to
Right.
play.
Brave
D3.
man scrolling through all his downloads here.
Monks
Yeah.
were very fast in D3. They were just jumping around, dashing. Their
This
dash
is
was crazy.
this is community manager Pez Radar himself. Check this out. Watch this clip.
Pez radar.
Boom. 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 Boom.
Ooh,
I'll play it again. It's
I
an
like it.
amazing clip.
It's a cool move.
I like it. So they can take a punch basically, and
Looks like Striker from Lost Ark.
So that's exploding palm and flying kick.
It's so okay. What he does is he does exploding palm. He sets up the exploding palm, and he does flying dragon to like group some stuff up. I think there's I forget what it's called. Is it Tempest Rush? There's something that groups everything up together.
Cyclone Strike, isn't it?
Cyclone Strike. That's it. Yes, sorry. Cyclone Strike, and then he does Seven-Sided Strike, and he does Seven-Sided Strike with a legendary that triggers the explosion on the exploding palms, and so that's the end of the combo, right? So Monk, at least in solo play, is a lot about these combos where you're just like group everything up, and then boom, everything just explodes. It's amazing.
Can you show it again on there?
I'll get it one more time in here. So this is a challenge rift or an elder rift, I should say. I thought this was a challenge rift, but yeah, same idea. He's like grouping them up. He's grouping them up.
Oh yeah, Seven-Sided Strike is the top ability.
Cyclone Strike, exploding palms everywhere. Seven-Sided Strike explodes everything. Incredible.
Yeah, he saves the top two, and then
Really, really, really awesome.
Yeah, it finishes it off with Seven-Sided Strike. Yep.
So you're gonna see a lot of that kind of monk play style, but there's also the support monk play style where you have something called Flying Dragon. You can relocate enemies, which I think this is the only class that can really do this in the game. This is really, really useful. So let's say you have like a really big, beefy enemy who's worth a lot of XP, salvage, and so on, and he's not like in the group of enemies that you want to blow up. Then you can Flying Dragon that guy over to the rest of your party. And, we were talking about these wombo combos earlier with, the Whirlwind Barbarian pulling everything in, or the Wizard dropping down like some like combo with Firestorm, right? So you do that, and then the Monk is doing a little bit more precise stuff on the battlefield. It's pulling in some of these really important targets that you want to do, shielding everybody up, and then blowing everything up with exploding palm and so on.
Yeah, for sure.
So they are doing some really good thing, and by far people just sleeping on the Monk. It's not unpopular because it's bad. It's unpopular because people are asleep at the wheel, right? They don't know.
Well, there's always
good.
There's always going to be that class,
like a higher skill cap for it, maybe.
Yeah, that is a good question. Is let's say somebody's new to Diablo, they're like, I've never played a Diablo game or an RPG. What would be like the easiest class? Maybe not easy, but easiest.
Easiest class to play in terms of, like all of these classes, by the way, have like high skill ceilings and skill caps. So like pixel positioning, all that stuff matters for every class. But there is probably an easiest class to play. Like let's say you're trying to play the game with a Dance Dance Revolution controller. I would probably pick Necromancer for that, because it's a lot easier for me to throw down a golem and throw down a skeletal mage and let them do damage than necessarily try to be in melee range and, oops, I'm attacking the wrong way because, I'm playing with my Dance Dance Revolution pad and I'm not hitting the enemy, right?
Yeah, or like maybe like a sentry DH and just kind of like get passive value.
The Demon Hunter's auto targeting works pretty well. So even if you're just attacking with crossbow shot, the character will auto target in turn. So that actually works pretty well as well. What I might steer away from as a player who's like super new to like, I don't know, like I just don't play games with controllers because I don't know, like my hands aren't used to a controller, or like, I've never played a Diablo game before. Might want to stay away from the melee classes because you have to be in melee range. You have to think about which direction is my character facing. Is my back to certain mobs that are gonna like attack me from behind?
And it can be kind of your job to navigate the group and scout and all that.
Yep. The melee classes are generally the scout for the group, like Monk, especially Crusader, even Barbarian to some extent. If a Barbarian can outfit themselves with Sprint, and you can actually end up being the scout for the party if you have a particular build. So, yeah, the melee classes I think end up being the scouts, and that just makes sense, right? Like they're diving headfirst and killing things. So,
yep. Cool, thanks.
I just saw the saddest thing that I ever experienced in the beta, which was the Battlegrounds queue not popping. So maybe they fixed this by now, but like in the beta we had literally like two servers that we were matchmaking with. It was our server and the Australian server, and at certain hours of the day we weren't even matchmaking with Australia. So the queue times were really, really long. And so you'd be in queue for 10 minutes, and it would actually drop you out of the queue, and you had to go all the way back to West March and re-queue. And eventually they fixed that in the beta. In the middle of the beta, they patched it. They like hot patched it such that it would automatically re-queue you. And that's what just happened here. I was like, oh, okay, I'm not as sad now. So hopefully at launch, when there's hundreds of servers per region, and in Battlegrounds you're matchmaking with those other regions, the queue times are pretty respectable.
Nice.
I think I'm just about running out of questions at this point.
You're full. You're feeling full.
I feel like at this point my information's pretty retained anymore. It's spilling over the top of the cup at this point.
Well, we should almost do like a weekly hangout, because it's good to have like that week where you see what questions people are asking and what's kind of the hot topics, and then you just all kind of meet up and discuss. So that does help a lot. I know we hung out last weekend, and then in this week I learned a lot, or a lot of things I wanted to ask about, and then it helped to kind of jump in a call and just have people to discuss it with.
Yeah, I'll answer one more topic from the chat before we go here. So yeah, I will say maybe we can do next week. I'll ping you guys if like the schedule's looking good. It might, again, we talked about this last time. The game's already started, you guys. Like we're already super busy making.
Oh, I know. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like scheming, and we're like scheming in our like evil layers, like trying to come up with the best group, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, so we'll see if next Sunday works, and we can do this one more time before launch. But yeah, I guess last question I'll answer before we head out here is about Wizard, because we just talked about Monk, and I think people are like, well, Monk is the bottom of people's tier list. What it is Monk is the bottom of people's knowledge list. because they didn't play Monk. They didn't see Monk in the battlegrounds. They didn't do any of that. So they're sleeping on it is what they are. I think if people really understood Monk and did more research on them, if they went and saw like how Ian played the game, shout outs to that Brisbane legend. I think they would change their minds and they would bring the Monk up a tier. So the Wizard, I think, gets a similar conversation. And again, I think this is just people kind of sleeping on the class. And I would actually direct you to Lexiu, another Maxwell content creator who's played a lot of Wizard. And he can really kind of fill in the gaps for you in terms of Wizard knowledge. I'll do my best to answer really quickly here, though. So again, Wizard is about all these combos that you're setting up for your team. And you can actually play kind of two styles of Wizard. First style of Wizard, you're kind of setting back at ranged, and you're playing like a true ranged class Wizard, right? You're dropping down a meteor, you're doing like a little arcane beam, you're doing the arcane wind, and you're doing the stutter step micro with magic missile and all this kind of stuff. The other way you can play Wizard, it may be more geared towards PvP, is like a battle mage style, and you can get all these things that are pretty close to melee range around you. So you can like summon these orbs that will damage enemies when they're close to you. And you can do all these stuns that require enemies to be pretty close to you. And you can just teleport on top of someone and you can drop all this stuff and you will melt people's faces, right? Lexiu did this during the alpha a lot. And before he figured this build out, he was basically playing a PvE Wizard in PvP. And so everyone was like, Wizard is trash, blah, blah, blah. Then he pulled out the Battle Mage build and started wrecking people, right? It was great. So I think you're going to see that a lot. I do think you'll see them fill a very DPS heavy kind of role. So like if you want to have two DPSs in your party, maybe Demon Hunter and Wizard together make a lot of sense, right? They probably complement each other really well. And so, yeah, I think, again, just like Monk, people are kind of sleeping on the Wizard as well.
I just noticed something on the video that you're showing us right now. You actually have bandages, like how we had in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, and
so it's not just potions. Okay.
So they do a lot of things all over the game, and again I won't go into too much detail on this, but the potion slot that changes all the time depending on what game mode you're playing, right? So like in a Heliquary raid, you're gonna have 3 of those per life, right? But in Path of Blood, I think you get 1 potion, if I remember correctly. In some game modes, you get 0 potions. In PvP, you're gonna get a bandage. They kind of mix it up depending on the vibe of the survivability. So they might want you to feel a little bit more desperate in some situations than others. All right, everyone. I think we're gonna call it here. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in.
Thanks for having us.
Do you guys
Yeah, it was great.
DM Cold Brew Chosen? Do you guys have any shout outs, anything you want to plug on the stream? We'll start with you, Cold Brew.
Just shout out to Aftershock United. We're doing some grouping for the EU servers. Is there anybody watching right now has intention of playing on the EU servers? Then
Yeah, no, it's gonna be fun. We're doing a similar thing that you're doing. You know, just crushing it and designing teams and hundreds of players and lining everything up. So next few weeks are gonna be exciting. But yeah.
I don't got anything to plug. I just say, for the people that are watching this, I'm assuming you're gonna record this and post it on your channel. Subscribe to that Go Hack YouTube channel, man. You're sharing all the information and been real friendly with us, and I think you should get the credit you deserve. So that's it for me.
Yeah, we plug your stuff all the time, and yeah, definitely massive shout out for taking your 1,000 hours of beta experience and being so welcoming to being open to helping other people as well. So yeah, we'll go ahead.
I know you guys aren't new to the Diablo community in terms of playing the game, but in terms of being a hardcore content creator for a Diablo game, I know maybe you're new to that space. I think what you'll find is that the Diablo community and just ARPGs in general, Path of Exile, these sorts of people are some of the friendliest people that you'll meet. It's a really amazing community, and I think most if not all of the people that you'll meet in this space are just some of the best people that you'll ever meet. They're really wholesome. They really want not just what's best for the game, but what's best for the whole community. It's really, really awesome.
We come from the raid community in particular, and I would say 90% of what we enjoy in the raid community, at least I'll speak for myself, is the community itself. Like is full-time YouTubers, first and foremost what we are as YouTubers. We work together a lot. So we're pretty used to always kind of talking and making friends and within that space. So it's good to hear that, hopefully the Diablo community will be more the same and friendly and work together.
For sure.
Well, awesome, everybody. We're going to close it down here. So everybody have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you later.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. See ya.
Thanks.